Moni, you come on down.
Okay, you know my name. I'm at
Name
15
and address, please, for the record.
Yes,
Thank
Robert
you.
Moni at 1512 Newport Ave, DeLand. Okay, the following information has caused me to live like a barbarian without running water or electricity, as you probably know. My lawsuit against the county has been dismissed. My cause has not. I have been in this struggle against law enforcement that is organized crime for 8 years. I say it with confidence and knowledge. I met with then Sergeant McDowell and tried to work with Sergeant Havener of West Volusia Narcotics Unit. I gave them on-the-scene actionable information. My complaints against them in the Johnson administration were dismissed. My complaints in the Chitwood administration go ignored. Chitwood actually promotes McDowell to lieutenant. After calling Chitwood's secretary to advise them about McDowell, McDowell calls me. The next day, a Volusia County police car is at the crack dealer's house being washed by crack heads. I have pictures. Sheriff Chitwood, I'm unimpressed. I had high hopes. The talk of Citizen Review Board disappeared. Okay, May 17th, 2017, DeLand. Same old low-level black faces drug user roundup. Without high-level arrest of the suppliers, it is fake law enforcement. It is perpetual and futile. It is trickle-down crime where the bottom dwellers pay the price, as in the banking collapse. I have written to and called all investigative agencies at all levels and will continue until the issues that cause this and allow this are addressed. I have and am suffering great financial and mental damage. On my concealed weapons permit, I stated I needed to protect myself against corrupt law enforcement. It was approved. President Trump's quotes, "The system is broken. When you know you're right and they tell you you're wrong, it should be confirmation." I have no confidence in the system that allows this. In my follow-up phone call to U.S. Senator Bill Nelson's Washington, D.C. office, the representative says, "What do you want? Dismantle the whole sheriff's department? The corruption is everywhere." He mentioned LAPD. We identify it, then we slowly phase it out. That conversation caused me the latest in the series of nervous breakdowns. I thank Stuart Marchman Center and Dr. Rivera for helping me. Common sense reasoning tells me if corrupt law enforcement is everywhere, the current methods or lack of them aren't working. Sovereign immunity gives them the perfect shelter. I am stuck and am forced to stand and fight. Blockbusting has rendered my property worthless. I can't resurrect and operate my trucking company under these conditions. I asked the media to assign me an investigative reporter. In 2012, 60 Minutes did a show on a reporter that convicted a corrupt sheriff department in Kentucky, and there are stories like that all through history. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moni. Morton Culligan.
Yes,
Name
my
and
name's-
address.
Yes, I know. I realize I'm responsible to tell you my name and address. Morton Culligan, 66 Tanglewood Road in DeBarry, Florida. Lived here 30 years. Okay, I would like to address Memorial Day and what we choose to forget on that day. For instance, 105 Iraqi civilians killed by the forces of American arrogance and violence in Mosul. These are the very people we are trying to protect. A 500-pound bomb right in their building. The tens of thousands of innocent Iraqis, Afghans, Somalians, Libyans we have killed by mistake. Oops. During 16 years of totally unnecessary war. We are not a nation. We are in fact a violent, vicious military empire with over 900 bases in foreign countries, yet not one foreign base in this country. We even have a concentration camp, if you will, in communist Cuba. That's how low down we are. When I say we, I'm talking about the United States government. We have wasted thousands of American lives and tens of thousands of innocent Muslims, Christians, Iraqis, you name it. We are violent, vicious killers with the blood of arguably 2 million Vietnamese on our hands. And we don't care. We don't memorialize that. We don't have a wall for that. We have a wall for the people that did it. American heroism, helicopter gunships slaughtering people, bombing, carpet bombing, B-29s, B-52s, that's American heroism. What is heroic about slaughtering people from C-130 Spectre gunships? There's nothing heroic about it, because Americans aren't heroic. They're selfish. They care about one thing, themselves. We talk about the American flag. We don't have a flag. The only American flag we have is the $100 bill, because that's what Americans are about, money. I don't think you people care about how savage and violent we are. You don't care about peace. 16 years of war, and what have you said about it, any of you, that I know of? Nothing. We're just hurting ourselves. We're hurting everybody in the Mideast. But I want you to follow the money. Why are we there? Money, that's why. All those trillions of dollars we spent there is all coming right back to the United States. So we can build more weapons of war and violence. In many ways, we are more vicious than the Nazis of World War II. In a different way, but we are. And the American flag is both a great thing and a very sad thing. But one good thing about it is we still have the Constitution. And we can say this without going to jail. The American flag is one of the most abused things on the planet. It's sad what this nation has done. And the fact that that American flag is pinned on the chest of our current president is a disgrace. I would rather see it at the bottom of the toilet than pinned on his arrogant, vulgar chest. God bless America? No, God bless the truth about America. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Marcy, is that it?
No more.
Okay, and that will conclude our public participation. We will see you all back here at 10 o'clock when we will convene the council meeting at that time. Thank you. Just a brief warning, we have 1 minute till 10 o'clock. 1 minute. At which time we will start the meeting. This is the final countdown. They're not on. We're now on. Good morning. Welcome to June 1st County Council meeting. This is our first one in June, and we're glad that you all took your time to come out and participate in the governance of the county. Welcome. This morning we will have invocation given by Pastor Rebecca. Yes. Hyvanen. Hyvanen. Good morning.
Good morning. Would you please join me in prayer? Almighty God, everlasting Father, wonderful Counselor, Prince of Peace, thank you that this is a county that seeks your wisdom. I just lift up Volusia County to you today and thank you for the servants who want to help make this a better place. We pray for our law enforcement, that you would keep them safe, Lord. We pray that you would protect our county as we enter the hurricane season. And we pray, Lord, that you would just protect all the children and their families as they're out for school as well. And most and last of all, Lord, would you grant this council and all who come and go from these chambers your wisdom, your peace, your blessing, and your favor. In my Lord Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I'm going to invite the council members to stand as we have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Marcy, can we have the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Ms. Post?
Present.
Ms. Wheeler? Ms. Cusack? Ms. Denny's? Dr. Lowry?
Here.
Mr. Patterson? Mr. Kelly?
Here.
All present.
At this time, we'll move to the consent agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to comment on the consent? We need a motion for it. We'll do any items you want to comment on or pull. Ms. Denny's?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to pull item O and W.
Okay, Mr. Deneen was going to comment on those. He didn't know. Did you want to pull them? He was not going to pull them.
I'm pulling them, yes.
Okay.
Also, Mr. Chair, I have a comment on AA.
Okay. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda absent items O and W?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Whaler.
All in favor of approving the consent agenda absent items O and W? Any objection?
And you have one.
Hearing no objections, the motion will stand as made. Would you please look at item O? And Mr. Deneen, that is the contract with CGI Technologies.
Yes, Mr. Peister will comment on that at this point.
Okay.
And answer any questions after her comments.
Good morning. This particular agenda item is asking two things. One is to allow us to spend around $1.5 million to upgrade the current financial system, and then also extend our services maintenance agreement with CGI for 10 years. Now, the CGI system is the financial, HR, and budget system. That is the foundation of all the financial information that flows through the county, countywide. It's a countywide system. The system, what we did back in 2005, 2006 timeframe, we went out for a proposal for financial, what is known as an ERP system, and a comprehensive system that will handle both financial, HR, and budget transactions and information. We received proposals, I believe, from 4 vendors. If I recall back then, we looked at 3 of those vendors, and it was an extensive review process of all the teams who are involved. It didn't involve just the IT folks, but it involved the end users, including the main users, which is our accounting, purchasing, HR, and the budget folks. We also had on our team the people from the different departments and divisions, because they've got to use it too. So after the long protracted review process, we selected CGI as our vendor going forward. We began the implementation in about the summer of 2007. We went live with the HR portion in 2008. We went live with the financial portion in 2009. We actually did an upgrade to the next version, which was 3.9. We went from 3.7 to 3.9 in 2012. This one takes us to 3.11 or 3.11. That will probably go live in July 2018. It takes about a year to bring these up and operating. We do use we have to use CGI services and their expertise to help us get the system loaded and operational. They work very closely with the IT folks to make sure they shake it down. Then they hand it over to the end users. Now, those end users I just talked to you about, or just mentioned, are the ones who will do all the extensive testing over probably about a 6-month period to make sure that it's functioning as planned. At the same time, we get additional training. At the same time, we also look at some enhancements that we want to at least get done by July 2018. Then the contract still continues through May of 2019. So if we have some other enhancements that we want to now focus on, that will allow the team to do that as well. These systems have to be upgraded, what we typically do, because it is expensive. $1.5 million is no small amount of money. $200,000 of that is hardware, because it's time to change the hardware out as well. We do every other one, about one every 5 years, which is something we can, is more affordable than trying to do one each time a release comes out. So actually, we're getting 2 releases in one for one price, which I think is an economical way of doing it. The other thing I think is important to point out, when you look at the maintenance agreement, which is for another 10-year period, is around $500,000 a year. That's what I was paying probably 15 years ago. It stayed the same because they've gotten economies. The one thing that CGI is probably the leader in government technology software for this type of financial information, and they understand government's pocketbooks, and they understand those restrictions. So they are always looking for ways to save money on some of what I call the software that is the underpinnings that operate the system. In fact, actually our costs are going to go down again, and we probably would save about $1 million over a 10-year period, because they found more economical software, what we call the third-party software that they use, that is just as effective, functional, and probably even give us, a better quality product. And we'll be able to save that over a 10-year period. So, we're constantly looking for ways to save, at the same time be able to afford to do these in an efficient, economical way. We are successful. I have had no implementation failures with these folks. We've come in on time, and I'll tell you, the last 2 I came in under budget. And I plan to do the same thing here.
Okay.
So that's
Dennis.
how the end of that story.
Thank you. I pulled it for 2 reasons. The first one, because of the price and on the consent agenda, and I think it's worthy of a discussion whenever we commit to dollars like this. But second of all, reading the amendment, reading the contract, we're only doing updates once every 5 years. And in the technology sector, we're behind the curve before the implementation's even done and the update's even done. But in speaking with Mr. Peister and my update for this, what's crucial is we're not just signing contracts, and it's not like you can just put this out for RFP, because it takes 2 years to implement and convert the original system just to begin with. Is that
Every bit of 2 to 2.5 years to do the
So-
original.
And the cost savings with the third-party software should be very positive, because we're becoming more user-friendly. The software is becoming more and more user-friendly. But what, before I make the motion to support, in reading the contract, I saw the cost in there for COBOL. I didn't think anybody was still using COBOL.
Well, yes, they do, and it's what is used to calculate your payroll.
Yeah.
And there isn't any tool better to do it. They incorporate that into the newer software, that you have today. But it's still the underpinning for the calculations, and they're more accurate still than anything there is yet on the market.
I think that's the longest standing programming
It is.
computer language that's out there from the very beginning. So anyway, with that, I just thought it was important enough, this project's big enough and important enough to us as a county and what we do in our day-to-day operations. I want to give you kudos for a good contract with that. I move approval of our upgrade to the CGI Technologies and Solutions, Advantage Financial Management, Human Resources Management, and Performance Budgeting Software Solution to version 3.11.1, an extension of our software maintenance agreement.
Seconded by Mr. Patterson. Ms. Cusack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had also wanted to have that pulled simply because of the things that we have already stated. And so I think that this is dollars well spent, but anytime you have an item that's over $1 million to have it on a consent, I think it bears discussion. So with that, Mr. Chair, I am very much in support of the motion. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, if I can add only the following comment, I think Ms. Denny's comment and Ms. Cusack's comment sort of highlights this for the public, is that nothing on this agenda on the consent agreement has not been discussed in detail to the level that each council member wants. So it isn't like they come up here and see this for the first time. And I think that's one of the important points sometimes about bringing it out in case of the public.
Thank you. And having gone through several upgrades in Ormond Beach, I don't consider this an exorbitant amount,
No.
especially when we are behind the curve, to keep us at least a little bit behind the curve. I can't wait for some additional software where I can touch the screen and actually use it. Maybe that will happen in the next decade. I'm not so sure, but thank you very much. Any objections to the motion? Hearing no objections, the motion passes. Please, let's move to item W, and that is,
You want to handle that? George will end up commenting to begin on this and then take any questions.
okay.
Yeah, this item here is the first one-year renewal of a contract with Armor Correctional Medical, and this was a 3-year with 2 one-year renewals. We decided to renew, but we were renewing with some amendments that we wanted to talk about. This is a huge cost center. As you see, as you were just talking about the million, this is $9 million potentially a year. This particular item, we work, this is the contractor that we worked side by side with in the facility. They help us by having the power to provide their purchasing power when it comes to working with the hospitals in particular. They basically run a small hospital within our jail. And it was decided that through some of the rising costs, we have our correctional staff reviewing, and we saw that there was probably a need for them to have a doctor on premise a little longer. So we're extending that. That's part of the amendment. As the manager had led the charge a while back on the suicide and mental health issues, we wanted to make sure that because they're the provider of that for us, that service, we want to make sure that they would be working with us on anything that comes out of these studies. They've agreed to do that and meet with us, I think, within 90 days of signing the contract, which should time out just about right with what we're, as we finish these studies. And the other thing they're going to look at is using telemedicine, which we can explain a little bit more, but basically the ability to reach out to the medical doctors throughout a 24-hour period to be able to handle a lot of minor things. And I do think, and I'm going to ask Mark Flowers to come up and just give a brief little discussion of what we handle out there, but I do need to point out to the public, we really do handle in a lot of ways the sickest of the sick. People who are coming to us, unfortunately, through awesome drug abuse and neglect. These people really come in, and quite frankly, they're a medical mess. So we have to work with a drug issue on them. And then we have to deal with the aftermath of that. What has it done to their body, to their organs, and so there's a lot to it. So the number seems staggering, and it is, and we're working to try and get it to a smaller amount. But and I think we have the right people here to work with. So with that, I'm going to have Mark just give a real brief look at some of the numbers that we handle out there and what we're up against.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the council. Mark Flowers, Acting Director, Corrections, 1300 Red John Road, Daytona Beach. What I've done is I've put together a small presentation. I don't want to read the slides to you, but I do want to give you a little background. Armor became our healthcare provider in January 2015. So what I did is the original contract was for one 3-year term, and then the option of 2 1-year terms after that. This amendment will be that first 1-year additional year. So the next 3 slides, I won't read them to you, but I wanted to point out some very specific numbers to you. On average, we're bringing 24,000 individuals in our back doors, processing them through the jail. Every single person gets a medical screening, mental health assessment at the back door to indicate any early problems, both medically and mentally, for each individual. And then you can just take a look at the numbers as they've increased over the past 2 years under Armor's care. So the ideology would be that we're getting a sicker population. If we go to I'll give you a moment or two to take a look at those next 3 pages. I don't want to read the numbers to you, but they are somewhat. If we could go to the findings first slide, please. For the past couple of years, we've just been right under budget or exceeded the adopted budget for both FY15 and FY16. A small committee was identified, put together, and we really got in and started dissecting some of the areas that we felt we could make some positive difference. What's interesting to understand is as few as 25 people out of that 24,000, they can exceed 50% of our budget due to their medical conditions. And I'm going to give you an example. I've got a 31-year-old that's been in a hospital now for a week and a half due to heavy drug usage. The inner organs are in extremely bad shape. This person is sentenced and will not get out of our custody until July 20th. We have no idea and no control of what those costs are going to be. Mm-hmm. So that's just one example of how one catastrophic event can really affect our bottom lines and our budgets. Now the
Mark,
cost, yes, sir.
If I can add something for the council's sake. This is the 3rd provider since I've been here. We take the previous councils, and I know this council takes how we run the jail very serious. And the health side of it can be a big issue. And it clearly can make the newspapers if people think that we're not doing the right thing. The jails were never intended to be set up for what the population they handle today, which is a lot of mental illness and drug abuse that, if you remember the old state systems that used to handle this, all shut down. And so now we end up with that. The other thing is, these tend to be, in some cases, the sickest people in our community that have not had health care at all. And, the sad part is the jails, in a lot of cases, get people healthy to actually serve sentences in prison. So we get people here that have had no health care. So what I think gets hidden sometimes is not just the fact that we are responsible for giving that health care. The county actually provides this level of health care for a large amount of money. We provide health care to some of the sickest people in the entire community that have no other recourse. And like Mark said, one of the issues that the previous council, and I'm sure this council supports, was we do not, by the way, most of the people in our jail are not sentenced. They're not sentenced of crime. So you're trying to deal with the issues humanely with people, a lot of cases, some that are sentenced, but a lot of people are not even sentenced. But the fact of the matter is that it's expensive, and the council, and we all take it very serious, but it's a big expenditure, and we hold the people that provide that health care to very high standards, because it is a difficult population to deal with. I just want you to know, I mean, there was a lot of thought gone into when we picked Armour, and you only stay with Volusia County if you produce. And the other thing about producing is that you're responsible to change for the changing needs. For example, the doctor being there at night. And I am very big on the thing about the suicides. And because they have to be connected, which they are. And by the way, the last suicide, which I told you I thought was the most unusual one I've ever seen in my career, preliminary report came back from the specialist who said there was no way you would ever suspect or prevent this kind of suicide. There's nothing that indicated this guy would take his life. Anyway, thank you, Mark.
Sir. One additional comment that is in addition to the money that we're talking about for the medical care. Anytime we transfer an inmate to the hospital, we have security attached to that inmate. And in addition to our medical cost, the operational costs are normally in excess of $500,000 for transportation, per diem, if they're out of county, as well as the overtime for the officers at the hospital. So that's another large payment on top of what our costs are. If we could go to the next findings slide, please. I just included all of the EVAC, the ambulance calls that we've had in 2015 and 2016, and we've had 61 ambulance calls this far in 2017. Approximately 47% of those ambulance calls, though, have taken place after our doctor leaves for the day. And we have one medical doctor that's on site for 40 hours a week. And, you know, I probably shouldn't say this, but she's the best I've seen in my 34-year career. She not only visits the inmates at the jail, she does follow-up care at the hospital in her own time to ensure that our care is adequate. What we also found in this committee is that the average cost to an emergency room visit is $4,100. That includes x-rays, testing, the doctor's fees, the emergency room fees. So you can see how that adds up when you're having over 100 visits a year that are taking place in the evening hours. So some of the recommendations, and we met with our provider on at least 2 occasions, and these are some of the, if we could go to the next slide, please. The amendment that we've agreed upon with you all's approval is that our doctor or a mid-level manager would provide 20 additional hours of coverage in those off-peak hours where 47% of our ambulance calls are taking place. And this recommendation actually was provided by our provider. They came to me asking, what if we gave you 20 more hours? So that's kind of to show you the partnership and the efforts that as a team we're putting forth. The EVAC cost is another area. That's $534 every time an ambulance is called to the jail to transport somebody. Mr. Rechtenwald, the manager, talked about telemedicine, and we've had a little experience, my past with telemedicine, and the average cost for a telemedicine visit is between $50 and $65. So what happens is you put a cart, you've got a camera, you've got an inmate sitting in front of it, and they're connecting like a webcam to a medical doctor somewhere in the nation who's licensed in Florida to practice medicine. So when you consider the $4,100 ER visit compared to the $50 or $65 telemedicine, it's a no-brainer. That's just one area that we want to tweak. Not all of them are going to be able to be done with telemedicine, but we're going to try and put a dent in our costs. Follow-up specialty care visits are about $400 an office visit. Somebody having surgery, we believe that they could be doing the same service in front of a computer through telemedicine as well. So once again, a $50 to $65 fee versus a $400 fee. One of the other areas that we've asked Armor to do is meet with us on a monthly basis now, so that we can continue our efforts to try and find ways to save the bottom line and reduce our health care cost. So subject to your questions, that's as short as I could present it to you.
Ms. Denny's.
Thank you. I don't have questions, I have comments, and I see Councilwoman Cusack wants to weigh in on this too, so I'm going to make mine short because the nurse in her, I'm sure, is going to come out for this particular contract. But I pulled it, again, for the same reason the last one. It's a $9 million contract. And a $9 million contract on a consent agenda is worthy of a discussion among council and to our citizens. But the previous council, why this is so important is the previous council, we went through the RFP of changing providers out at the jail.
Yeah.
And that was some interesting council meetings, and it was difficult, and it was very challenging, and we had to make a tough decision. And anytime you change providers, it changes everything, and everything changed. But I think it's been very positive. I'm going to just say a few words. The thing that impressed me the most too in the contract changes was the telemedicine, because we save the transport, but also in that 20 hours that we've added, you've added a mid-level provider, but the county at the same time, we're mirroring and that we're shadowing that. We're doing the same thing. We're putting another 20-hour employee to stay there.
Right.
So what they're doing, we're doing, so that they're not there alone. So I think it's a good collaboration between for serving our inmates out there and keeping costs low, and very honestly addressing probably some medical needs that can be done through telemedicine now, saving the transport fees,
Right.
saving the security fees, and all that comes with it. Manager.
Well, when the nature of the inmates keeps changing, and we end up getting people that, like I said, historically, now these are people who used to go into drug rehab or whatever, you got to adjust the focus in the jail. And if you remember, not only did we do the addition that added and replaced, we didn't add any capacity, we replaced all that. The other thing, if you remember, the big recommendation we had was to try to make the jail more conducive to dealing with a lot of the mental health issues we deal with. And the best way to deal with them is to deal through the medical provider, because they have to catch these things. The other thing that we talked to the medical provider about was, for example, in the suicide that we could not have prevented. The one thing that we are going to try and do is encourage that the family members of people that are inmates, that if they pick up anything, like in the case of this guy, with a conversation he had with his brother, had they called us and we could have went with our medical provider, they could have re-interviewed the guy to see whether he was under some kind of undue stress to try and prevent that. But I really think that, we take this part of corrections extremely seriously. And that was no easy decision. And like I said, we went through a whole process. The council actually are the ones that actually picked this provider.
Ms.
And I-
Cusack.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm done.
Ms. Cusack, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mark, for your good work. I think that we are on the right track with our system of corrections. And I want to say that as a healthcare person, I'm always concerned about maintaining health status. And that I understand that we have a motto in this field that says, first of all, to do no harm.
Right.
We want them to leave us at least in the same position that they came to us, no worry. And we don't want to carry them out feet first. And so I'm concerned the mental health piece, and who does the assessment for the mental health?
Ms. Cusack, the subcontractor for Armor is the SMA. So, and we met with Halifax a couple of weeks ago to talk about a few issues. We have determined is the same clientele is being transferred from the Halifax to the SMA clinic to the jail. And it's the awful triangle, and it's the same group of folks.
Right.
We bring them to jail, as the manager spoke, we clean them up, we get them on their medication, we release them from jail, they go back out into their situation, back into their old neighborhood, they stop taking their medications, and they either end up in Halifax, they end up at SMA, or they end up back at the jail again. So it's an awful cycle.
Ms. Cusack, if you remember, one of the criticisms we had of Corizon, was the provider before this, was they did not use SMA enough. And we believe that that also can lead to dangerous situations which put people in harm's way when they get out and also while they're there, and that can be one of the key indicators where we have a suicide issue. So this provider has definitely stepped up and used them a lot more.
And if I could make one additional point, and what's not in any of the slides in any of the information, between Armor and the SMA folks, they have provided over 2,000 hours of training since March of 2016 on mental health, suicide prevention to over 80 of our staff. And they haven't charged us one penny for any of that training.
So they're very much on board as to identifying triggers as it relates to mental health.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I see that we have decreased the number of people awaiting state beds for the mental, from 73 to 17. And what do you attribute that to? Are we seeing less? We're seeing less, but we are also, the numbers just don't. That's quite a difference. So you're getting in place pretty fast, apparently.
Yes, ma'am. So what's happening is the individual that's coming in the back door, these are folks that have been determined to not be able to go to court due to their mental illness. So these numbers that you just see, 90 people, have come into our system in the last 2 years and been determined that they're not fit to go to court at this time. So those beds, the state system that we go to only has a little over 600 beds. So our inmates go on a list, as do many other jails. We're very grateful for those lower numbers because we don't end up dealing with these individuals for an extended period of time waiting on those special beds.
Right. It's another cost that comes to counties from the state because they don't have, they have less capacity than they need.
Right. I think that it's important that we do engage families as it relates to our mental health piece, that somehow we need to do more of that by, I don't know if it's a part of the assessment that they would, in their contacts, as to if we have a caseworker that looks at families, if that's, that I had a discussion with Mr. Deneen about that. I think that we should move into that direction. So maybe if we can save one person through family contact, is well worth that.
We saved one this week due to my intel unit listening to a phone conversation, and we immediately jumped on this inmate, not literally, but took immediate action. And this
Be very
individual
clear.
is now on, yes, this individual is now on suicide watch just due to the work of staff. I would ask the council to stay tuned because there are a lot of good changes coming in regards to engaging the community, and we need their help.
Thank you so much.
This is also part of the report that we're going to get back from the specialists we hired on suicide.
I think that we need to have this type of dialogue, Ms. Denny, and to the council, because it's important that we do no harm and that we are abreast of what's going on there and not have to read about it later. So I applaud everyone who's involved, and thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and to you, the Corrections Department. Medical.
Thank you, Ms. Cusack. Mr. Patterson.
Approval, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Of the Armor contract.
Second.
Motion is made by Ms. Cusack, seconded by Ms. Dennis. Mr. Patterson.
Yeah, I hear there's people out in the community that think we just warehouse people at the county jail, that we don't try to do anything to help them, that we don't try to improve some of their situations. And we can, we've got the numbers to show it, that what we have to expend on inmates. And the telemedicine, I am a big fan of it. A couple of years ago, I was in the hospital and actually had sitting there with a guy talking to him. I mean, it was amazing because it wasn't like there wasn't any, it was like he was in the room. That's how good I felt, being able to talk to him and tell him what was going on. And so I think the only thing, my only concern with the telemedicine, do we document the actual interview that doctor does with that inmate in case of any particular malpractice situations? What liability do we have in that?
Yes, sir. Our charge nurse is in the clinic 24 hours a day. So anytime that inmate would respond to the clinic due to a problem, that documentation will be done.
Okay.
And they're using electronic medical records, so it's much easier now.
But for a $50 to $60 visit, I'm sure they're carrying malpractice insurance.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we have that documented also. Correct.
Yes.
Okay. That's the insurance side of me here. But I think y'all are doing a wonderful job. And it really is frustrating to have to hear people say, you guys just warehouse them over there. They're just sitting in there rotting away and we're not doing anything to help them. I had 8 years with the old ACT Corporation that is merged within Stuart Marchman. So I knew what we did over there in trying to help people with all their mental health issues years ago. So, and working with the jail on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just briefly, I just want to echo what Ms. Cusack, Mr. Patterson just said. I won't repeat that, but we're blessed to have a person of Mark's ability heading this up, and I just want to say thank you. To have someone of that foresight, ability, character, and everything, you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are people who actually travel in motorhomes that actually have the same setup. You can actually hook up your leads and so forth in your motorhome and have someone, the best specialist in the world, can actually read those. And also, I guess the other question was, adding someone at 20 hours, is that a PA or is that another position?
That's either a physician or an ARNP, a
Okay.
mid-level manager, and the collaborative effort between us and our contractor to determine when those 20 hours are going to be used.
I wasn't really, I knew it would be someone that would be adequate. I mean, I go to my doctor 90% of the time, I don't see him. I see a PA or someone for it. But they're good and they're trained, so, but there is a doctor there.
Or does he say you're a PA?
He said the brain scan was a suspect, but
They know how cranky you are, Mr. Chair.
it's time for my 10 o'clock snack, and I haven't had it yet.
Wait,
but
who just said that?
Mr.
Was that Patterson called you cranky? I'm just saying.
Wow, considering the source.
Just saying. Any objection to the motion? Hearing no objection, the motion stands. It's passed. We'll move, Mr. Nanine, you want to comment on AA?
Comment on AA,
Next.
Jerry?
Item AA.
Yes. Can you give us a 2-second overview and see if there's any questions?
Just say it.
Good morning. Jerry Brenton, County Engineer. Do you want me to give a brief overview or? Okay. This is contract with DRMP. This will be our representatives during the construction phase of what's called here is 4B and 5. It's the 20 miles of trail that goes from Gobbler's Lodge all the way over to I-95 down to Brevard County line, where it connects to a trail that is virtually complete in Brevard County that takes it to Titusville. And then our trail spurs off to the north, crosses Maytown Road, and goes up Cow Creek and connects to our trailhead just south of State Road 442 in Edgewater. The construction, this was a design-build contract. P&S Paving was the prime on it as the contractor. $16 million, and it was federal funds. And so they have, beginning of May, they started clearing, and we expect that they're clearing the parts where they don't need the wetland permits. And they're relocating gopher tortoises and that sort of thing. We've got a number of bridges, so those are the areas we're waiting for the environmental permits for them to begin clearing in that area. But Dyer Riddle, this is approximately a $1.1 million contract, and one section is 100% federal funds. Ms. Danny, you may remember the section that goes up through Edgewater and all. FDOT could not come up with 100% of the federal funding. We had done earlier some switcheroo where we used federal money from that section to
That's
do
not the
the-
accounting term we use, Mr. Britton, but yeah.
It's, well, it's an engineering
Creative.
term.
Yeah, it's an engineering, creative, financial term.
They allowed us to use federal funding on the section that's furthest to the east to do the piece from 442 on around in Edgewater, which is already complete, and the bridge over 442. So when it got to, this all preceded the Sun Trail funding. And so that's why this is federal funding now rather than the state Sun Trail funding. So we had to pony up with, on that one section, 40-some% of it. And that comes from the trail set-aside money that councils in the past have supported, taking $1 million of ECHO funds and setting it aside for the trail so that it can match.
$1 million of what fund?
Of ECHO.
That's, that's the piece that I want to make sure that everybody understands.
Absolutely, and it has been beautiful in being able to, just as in this, it leverages federal and state funding, and it has been tremendously successful in doing that.
I know that Mr. Dennis and I were both, Mr. Chair, and have been very concerned about that. And I want to make sure that we understand that this is collaboration with feds and local money and ECHO funding.
Absolutely, and it's worked beautifully.
And it's important that we tell that story always. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for having that discussion. Thank you, Mr. Zanine.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jerry. Great job. I learned some new words. I mean, I pony up, and what was that other one? Rickety-doo, switcheroo. We may enter some of those words in for the new dictionary for next year, along with one that was tweeted recently, but we'll see where that goes. That concludes our consent agenda. We have already voted on those items, and we'll move on now to item 2, a presentation from Clay Irvin, I believe.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think Ginger Adair is going to go
Okay.
ahead and introduce the person from the Department of Environmental Protection. This is an item, it's a routine item. Ginger.
Thank
Good
you.
morning. Nice to be here this morning. Ginger Adair, Environmental Management Director, and I'm just here to introduce Miss Barbara Howell. She's an environmental specialist with the Wekiva, Middle St. John's, and Tomoka Marsh Aquatic Preserve, and she has a public announcement for you all.
Looks like she has more than an announcement in her hands.
No, I'm ready.
Just saying.
Thank you. Like she said, my name is Barbara Howell, and I am with DEP, the Florida Coastal Office, and specifically today, Tomoka Marsh Aquatic Preserve. And we have just completed a draft of our management plan update for the Tomoka Marsh Aquatic Preserve. And I'm here today just to announce a public meeting to invite the public to comment on the plan. And the meeting itself will be at Tomoka State Park Recreation Hall at 2099 North Beach Street, Ormond Beach. And a copy of the plan is posted on that flyer, which there's some more out on that table. And it's also on your website. If you just Google Tomoka Marsh Aquatic Preserve, you'll be able to find it online as well. So in keeping with the spirit of doing this correctly, if anyone has any special accommodations that they need, they can call our office at area code 407-330-6727 or by mail 8300 West State Road 46 in Sanford 32771, or the Aquatic Preserve Manager's email is Deborah Shelley, DEBORAH .SHELLEY at dep.state.fl.us. So I don't know, probably no one has any questions about this, but I do want to thank the council and the chair, and especially Ms. Zimmerman for getting me on the agenda, and Heather Post for serving on our advisory committee as well. We have the public meeting is Wednesday, June 21st at the State Park from 6 to 7:30. And if you'd like to come to that meeting, that's open to the public. Also, there is a comment period, on a written comment period that ends July 5th. And we're hoping to take this to the ARC in Tallahassee in October. So we have to have all our paperwork done and all the comments incorporated into the draft and make it the final by July 20th.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Just another beautiful location and that we have spread throughout the county of, for protecting and for people to visit. And I'm very, of course, familiar with that area. It's in Ormond Beach. I'm just saying.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. And wish us luck on that tugboat.
Thank you.
I'm headed there now.
Yeah, I saw the crane up there working on that a couple of weeks ago, I guess. We'll move to item 3. This is a public hearing. The public hearing is now open, and we'll have a staff report by.
It's a mystery. Good morning. I'm Tad Casebeer, the Assistant County Engineer. So I will start off by noting that I will not be using any technical terms like switcheroo or pony up. I'll avoid that on this presentation. But the item you have before you is a vacation of 12 lots in the Lone Star Grove subdivision, basically north of Woodland Avenue here in DeLand. It also includes the vacation of basically 280 feet of Tangerine Avenue. The parcels are undeveloped and the road is unconstructed. The petitioner is here to answer any questions that you might have, but their utilities have no objections and the staff recommends approval. So,
I have Mr. Patterson.
One day I'll learn how to use this after 6 years, you'd think. Oh, thank you there.
We do have one.
A rookie telling me what I'm doing wrong here.
How did you make the last meeting? I don't know.
No, I just want to move approval of the vacation of the portion of the plat of Lone Star Grove, map book 10, page 230 in DeLand.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Mr. Patterson, second by Mr. Lowry. We do have one person who wants to participate in the public process, and that would be Bobby Skates. Bobby? Good morning.
So my name is Bobby Skates, and I'm a 12-year resident of Tangerine Avenue. I got this letter in the mail about less than 30 days ago, and I would like to request a 60-day extension to get in touch with all of my neighbors on the street behind me and let them know what is going to be happening in our neighborhood. I am opposed to developing this area, being that I am a resident on this street. So I would like to request a 60-day extension.
Thank you. There's no other public participation. We'll close the public. Oh, sorry.
just a quick note, the neighbors.
Everyone was sent.
Sorry,
I
the
assumed
neighbors
that.
behind were notified, so.
Right. So let the record show that I'm sure that everything was sent out with the required distance within this project. They were sent. So with that, we'll close the public hearing portion. The motion's been made and seconded. Any objection to the motion? Hearing no objection, the motion stands. We'll move to item 4, and that is the confirmation of appointment of the Corrections Division Director, Mr. Deneen.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, George Reichenwald, Deputy County Manager. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Mr. Flowers. Of course, we just put him through his final test here a minute ago but it's my great pleasure to present for confirmation Mark Anthony Flowers. Mark he began his career in corrections while still in the military in 2001. He's been with us since 2014 as the Assistant Corrections Director and has been the Acting Director since March of 2016. Mark served on active duty in the U.S. Army for 23 years. He's a recipient of many awards, Legion of Merit, 5 Meritorious Service Medals, and 4 Army Achievement Medals. He's also, just recently, in February, received his doctorate with specialization in public safety and criminal justice. He received his master's degree in May of 2003, where he majored at that time in human resource development. Mark is a member of the American Correctional Association. He's a certified corrections executive since 2007. He was appointed a member of the Florida Model Standards Jail Committee since 2017. He also, locally, he serves as an advisory board member for Atlantic High and New Smyrna Beach High for their Academy of Law and Government. So I think, you've gotten to work with Mark over the last couple of years, those that have known him. I can also say that I receive on a constant basis positive feedback and accolades from the judiciary that works with the jail. I know working with the staff out at Corrections, he brings a very collaborative approach, a lot of ideas. Mark is very experienced and in a wide range of corrections, it is a large field. And, we have a jail, but we also have an element where we have sentenced inmates. So we actually have two sections, in our facility. And of course, Mark has a lot of experience in both the longer-term sentence folks and corrections ideas, and then of course in the jail setting, which is, as the manager pointed out, we have a lot of people who aren't sentenced to anything, but they're in our care while we work through the system. So
I want to add to that, saying that let me make this point pretty clear. Marilyn Ford has not left us, and that's some big shoes to fill. And most of my career, I have been responsible for jails. I take it very serious, and I've seen the changes that's gone on in jails, especially as the state got out of the mental health, gave up their mental health responsibility, in my opinion. I'm always skeptical because I think that it can be the largest money pit to a certain degree that we deal with if we don't manage it correctly. It also has to be done humanely, and you have to respect the rights of the people that we have held as incarcerated, because most of them are not even sentenced, together with the fact that we deal with issues no one ever thinks about. For example, the fact that these are some of the most abused, some of the sickest, and some of the people with the greatest needs come to us. That was not the mission originally with jails. It was to hold these people. But we have a responsibility to go way beyond that. Mr. Patterson's right. We don't warehouse people as though they're not human beings. You have to make sure that you do this right. I personally, because I am very skeptical of making sure that we have the right person, we spend a lot of time looking for the right person, because no one has run that facility better than Marilyn Ford. Now, here's the reality that I cannot afford, and that is I cannot afford to have a mistake. So when we brought Mark in with Marilyn out there, he stayed the course, understood what she was giving him, teaching him out there, and we had to give him an opportunity to fly on his own. I wanted to do that while Marilyn's here, because if you can't fly on your own, then I have somebody to bring back till we find the right person. He has proved to us that he has what it takes. I'm proud of the fact that, like Marilyn, he just got his PhD. It shows that, people have to be very well educated to run these facilities. This is a serious business that we're in. He graduated, in my mind, enough to be able to move him permanently in that position. And I want to thank Marilyn Ford personally for allowing us, she's doing other work for us, to step to the side while we allowed Mark to take over. Because I cannot ever take the chance that I can't wait till she's ready to retire, she's in drop, and then hunt for somebody. So and in all fairness to Mark, he knows I waited a while and put him through a lot before I made sure that this was the right person to do what we've got to deal with, because it's a very important thing for us to run, and it is one of the major responsibilities of the county. I have never been so proud as to bring somebody forward and offer them this new job to run the facility for us. At the same time, I'm extremely proud of Marilyn Ford. She's doing all kinds of other stuff for us. She helped me on the master plan. She's in the midst of a whole bunch of other things that we have her doing. She's a class act, and I think that Mark will come in and do as well a job as she did, and that's saying a whole lot. But I don't want to forget the fact that she's done a wonderful job, and nobody could run it better, and we had to find somebody that could run it as well. And in this case, Mark's the person. Thank you.
Ms. Post.
I'm right here. Hold on.
Well, my mic wasn't on, sorry.
Mark, I would just like to say I truly admire and commend your work ethic. That specifically I wanted to point out. The fact that you've continued your education while doing this and your professional training is very commendable. And and knowing what I do about your work ethic, I know that you will continue your professional training. The changes, I'm not privy to all of the changes you've made, but the changes that I have been aware of and the changes that I've seen that you've done in the short time since you've come in reevaluating and rebooting the system have been fantastic. And it's wonderful that we have a new set of eyes and that you're doing that. And you have just done a fantastic job. And I really want to impart that I truly admire your work ethic. So thank you, and we are very lucky as a county to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Was that in the form of a motion to confirm the appointment by Mr. Deneen of Mark Flowers?
Absolutely.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Patterson. Mr. Patterson, do you have a comment?
Well, I was going to make the motion.
I figured as much, but
that's just fine with me. Yeah, right.
All right. Well, the motion is made and seconded.
I still, whoa. I have a comment, though.
Oh, sorry.
Previously, back almost 20-some years ago, when I was on the council for 4 years, and now almost 6 years, and this is my third person to come along. You guys have a job that just I would never want. They couldn't pay me enough money because I've had to listen to complaints over the years and then look into the complaints and find out it was just people that were wanting to bitch and moan and complain and make it seem like they were treated horribly. And but you guys do a tremendous job, and I've actually gone out there and not as a inmate, but as an individual going through the jail, seeing everything that's going on over there. I think if you haven't, it's something you have to do as a council member. I've visited Tomoka State Prison, and it's a whole different environment. And you guys have a tremendous, your staff and everybody. I really appreciate everything that y'all do. And my comments stand. We do not warehouse people. We were charged. We know the responsibility that we have for them when they're in there, and you guys take it seriously. So thank you.
Ms. Patterson, you mentioned this was our third person. You're right, and so that I don't forget. Not only did we've been so fortunate having now Mr. Flowers and Marilyn Ford before that, but Terry Moore before that, and that should be recognized. We've had exceptional people that do an exceptional job out there.
Thank you. Any other comments? I think from what you went through this morning and what you showed me, I think you're well prepared for the task ahead, and we have the motion to confirm the appointment. Any objection to the confirmation? Hearing no objection, the motion stands.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Mr. Chair and members of the council, it's an honor for me, and I truly appreciate it. I've been in corrections for 34 years, and I've only said this comment one other time. I honestly believe that I'm with the best correctional officers I've ever had the experience of working with. And I'd like for all of the correctional staff to stand. I'm wondering who's holding the keys down there. Really well.
I'm sure they have a lot of good help out there as
On
well.
this side as well, and these are the folks that let us all sleep at night. I have to give my glory to God. That's who leads me on a daily basis, and my other boss is in Virginia trying to get our house ready to sell so she can relocate here permanently. But 3 years and a few days ago, I was in front of Mr. Sanders, Miss Mary Connors, retired deputy county manager, and Mr. Terry Sanders, and was doing my interview on what I told him at the time was my 32nd birthday. It was only 3 years ago, so they knew I was not, telling the truth at that point in time. But I made Mr. Rechtenwald a switcheroo. Yeah. Yes. I'll pony up later, but I do appreciate the honor. I'm following the legacy of good leaders in the past, and my pledge to the county is I will pick up where they left off, and we will continue to work hard to make tomorrow better than we are today. So God bless you for what you do for this great county, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
We can't ask for any more than that. Thank you, Mark. And there again, the applause. That's okay. And now we move to the movie part of this. Our property appraiser.
Mr. Chair, I'll introduce our
Are
property
you going to introduce
appraiser.
him? I can see him right there.
I
It's
know.
okay.
Mr. Bartlett was kind enough to come down this morning. He had talked to me and asked to include in his budget next year an increase for this pictometry software. He went through this with our office. He convinced me not only is it in the best interest of the property appraiser's office, Mr. Bartlett's also looking for ways to, he's made it real clear to me. He's a guy, warms my heart because he's always trying to find a way to see if he can run the place cheaper. He believes he can do good quality and maybe cut some costs, but he also showed us that we could use this. All the agencies could use it. And in fact, the county council will be able to use this when you're going through cases now because it'll be more updated photographs. And so you'll be able to use this as a 3D photograph system. We talked about having an opportunity for him to show you what he wants to spend money on next year. I put this in my budget.
So this is better than Google Earth Plus, right? Just, anyway.
Thank
Larry
you,
Bartlett,
Mr.
thank
Manager. I'm Larry Bartlett. I'm the county property appraiser, 123 East Indiana Avenue here in DeLand. And good morning, Mr. Chairman, men and women of the council. I'm glad to be here. I was sitting back there enjoying some of the interplay here with the new technology, the new jargon that's being used. And I'm excited to present this to you because I'm a big believer in technology. I campaigned on it during the run for this office, and I always am a believer in learning new things about technology. Despite the pitying glances I get from my daughters when I ask them to help me understand some things they learned about in grade school. But this Eagle View that we're talking about this morning, it's eye-in-the-sky technology. And it's a straight-down view and also an oblique view, which is new. Now, we're looking at the old courthouse. And as you can see, the straight-down view is okay, but the oblique, which is new, is much better, especially when we can turn it and get a 360-degree view of whatever we want to look at. And this technology didn't exist for the property appraiser's office 7 years ago. And Morgan Gilreath, who also was a big believer in technology, brought this in, and he realized that this is something that could be used to cut costs in our office because we don't need as many field appraisers and we don't need as many vehicles. And in fact, the number of field appraisers and the vehicles we use have been cut down substantially because our appraisers can look at this and do their jobs from their desks. And now we have the additional benefit of unlimited use. So what does this mean? Well, this means that not only can the property appraiser's office use this, but all the various departments in the county and all the cities can use this technology for free. So it's something that I realized early on could be hugely helpful for public safety. And I've talked to the folks at the Sheriff's Department. I think John Creamer is here. And they're excited about adding this to their 911 capacity so that when they send a car out to someplace at night, they could send the information to the officers so they can see what they're going into easy to understand form, so they're not trying to figure out where they are in the dark. And these are some of the other things that this technology can be used for. This is who's using it right now. And as you can see, very many of our departments and our cities are using this technology for their own purposes. And this is what we project the users will be soon. So this is all very exciting uses of this technology. And I want to come up here and share this with you. After I talked to the manager about this, he said, well, you ought to come up and talk to the council about this. They need to know just how good and useful this is, because, when we can show our people what is actually on the ground, and especially when those people are police protection people, we're taking people away from possible danger that might lurk out there, so they can see where they're going in daylight, even though they're out there at night. And it's to me, a hugely beneficial process to use. Now, for example, if they have to set up a perimeter, they know where the points of entry are, and they can see the obstructions. Oops, don't want to skip over fire services. This is where this can be used to show our firefighters, where the fire is and how to get to it. And maybe more importantly, how to get away from it if it gets out of hand, and maybe they could be trapped if they don't know how to get out of there. And this also can be used to compare before and after shots. What something looked like in the past as opposed to what it looks like now. New construction versus past. And, for example, CRA improvement over time. Now, from the properties appraiser's aspect, this gives us an ability to look at things that maybe we were prevented from looking at because it was behind a fence. So now we have this eye in the sky technology that can let us know when there's been improvements there that maybe they didn't tell us about, or they didn't get a permit for.
That's what he didn't tell you.
And it also, of course, lets us know what's on top of buildings. So, as you can see, this is a very beneficial thing that we have now, and really more importantly, perhaps than everything else, these flyovers only used to be done every 3 years, but now they're being done every year. So we don't have necessarily real-time information, but it's as close as we can get. So every year gives us a lot more ability to use what we see on a timely basis. And these folks have not only given us every year, well, actually, the manager has given us every year, which we really appreciate, but these folks at Pictometry, now called, what's it called now? Eagle View, yeah. They have given us unlimited use so that we can provide this to not only the county departments, but all the cities that want to benefit from this as well. So I was excited about this. I wanted to come and share it with you. And I'm glad the manager invited me. So thanks very much.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Mr. Patterson.
You didn't tell me. You didn't alert me there, Ms. Post. Ms. Post. As an insurance agent, this is something, would I be able to get access to this, to look at some of these things? Because sometimes when I'm trying to insure properties as an insurance agent, be able to have some of this data available, things that I don't usually, because I don't want to go in their backyard with Mr. Dog back there or stuff. So is it just strictly for cities and counties to use?
Right now, it's strictly for cities and counties, but I think it can be provided to the public with certain restrictions attached.
I mean, that's what I'd want it for, just to be able to, a lot of times to be able to measure, especially that measuring capabilities on swimming pools when I'm having to, find the, actual building costs of property and determining the insurability and the amount of insurance to put on houses would be very helpful to me. So maybe we could buy into it in some way.
Ms. Patterson?
Yes, sir.
I'll tell you what I think we can do. I mean, it's public information, so what we'll do, work with the property appraiser's office, and we'll see what access people can have to it and how they could access it, and come up with a system where a lot of people could get to use it, because it'd probably be very beneficial for everybody. We'll have to sit down with Larry and figure out a way in the law department.
Many times in my office, we're constantly looking at some of the old maps and stuff and trying to get a pretty good idea of what a house looks like when we're trying to insure it without having to drive over there. And I think a lot of the insurance companies out there would find this very useful in checking up on what the insurance agents are doing. So I think it's very helpful.
I was glad that you pointed out that it's not real time. So my question is, showing the fire that may or may not be there a year from now, I was kind of curious about that one, on how you could set up.
Well, what you can do is you can show where the fire actually is, and now.
But it won't be the little round circle that you had.
But you can draw a map as to where the fire is now.
Right.
And you can impose it on the photograph of the area where it's now burning, so that the folks, the firefighters, can know where the fire is now in real time.
They can know the fire lines.
They can know the fire lines because it can be imposed on this technology, and most importantly, they can know how to get in and out. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not real time.
No.
But it can be imposed so it's real time.
Okay, Ms. Dennis.
Thank you. I think one of the biggest benefits, Mr. Manager, on this, I know when we prepared for the hurricane coming through, we had to go out and take pictures of everything for reimbursement from FEMA.
Yes.
I mean, all the shores, everything. So this should be a great tool in our belt for even things like FEMA reimbursement, and when these big disasters hit us, if they're all documented ahead of time, should that not expedite our emergency services process?
Well, FEMA, every year, it's a new game of how hard it's going to be to get the money from them. So what this will allow us to do, and I've talked to Larry, there's all kinds of uses. One of them, like you pointed out, is now I'll have a series of pictures over a period of time, so I can show not only what's there, but what we built and what investment we made, because they look at, well, how old was it? When did you build it? So this will all enhance. I'll tell you the other thing that will enhance. I think this really helps you with cases sometimes, because there's no way you can get out to all these places to look at these rezonings, these issues people have. In some cases, we can give you better pictures now right there when you're discussing a case. So somebody says, my pool's, people come in and complain, that pool's, where they're going to build is too close, or that, remember that one, the screen's too close to my house? You'll be able to see your own self, how you feel. So we could use all that. I do think, and I really appreciate that Mr. Bartlett not only was looking at what's good for him, he also pointed out that he's trying to use this to see if there's ways to save money, because very costly in a county that's 1,200 square miles is sending people in cars. So can we avoid that anywhere? So we're going to see if there's other uses for this. We think the uses are unlimited. And I was able to increase his budget, in my budget for my request, in line with within the tax rate that we have.
Okay.
Just one final comment. Are these, I assume these are date stamped?
Yes. You'll know exactly when the photographs were taken. Right. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And I think you combine this with drones. I think you'll have an extra tool, because you would have the ability to go back, especially after a hurricane. And for those of you, all of you up here, I know use Google Earth. I use it anywhere I'm traveling to a place and I get a hotel that I don't know, that I've never stayed there. I'll get down and walk the street and see what's happening, the technology that's out there. So appreciate you having that, and I saw all the cities, municipalities that are currently using it. Ms. Post.
Did we come up with an estimated cost on that?
It's proposed into the budget, I think.
It's in the budget right now.
But what was it?
It cost $430,000, I think, for the once every 3-year flyovers. Now it's that amount every year.
Right.
Okay. Definitely worth it. I was just wondering.
I will tell you, in all fairness to the previous property appraiser, especially Mr. Bartlett, their agency, like some of the other ones, really go out of their way to try to cut costs. And so he's more than paid for it in things that he constantly looks for ways to reduce this cost.
And I think the services across the board, the ways to use it across the board is just, compared to the cost is phenomenal. So
Much better having it every year. Thank you, Larry. No other questions?
Thanks, Mr. Bartlett.
Have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure.
Joanne Magley is up. With updates.
Good morning, Joanne Magley, Community Information Director with your Community Events Update, and we have 3 new events since the last council meeting. On June 14th at 9 a.m., the City of Edgewater will break ground on a 2-mile Sun Trail segment along Park Avenue from Dale Avenue to 10th Street, and this is part of the St. John's River to Sea Loop. Vice Chair Deb Denny's will be part of the groundbreaking ceremony. And this is the first trail segment in the state that has turned dirt using the funds from the Sun Trail program. If you recall, Volusia County was the recipient of the top 2 priority trails, namely the Coast to Coast Trail and the St. John's River to Sea Loop. Funds from the state are pledged until both of these trails are completed. And the Sun Trail monies can also be used for trail resurfacing. So the City of Edgewater is coordinating this ceremony, and they sent out the invitations on Monday. The next event is the Chamber Alliance Mega Mixer that will be held at Daytona Beach International Airport. The Mega Mixer is June 22nd from 4 to 7 p.m., and it will be held in the public areas of the terminals on both the first and second floors. It features business-to-business, buy local tabletop expo, and the event is free and open to the public. And then again this year, staff from Daytona Beach International Airport will participate in the Port Orange Family Days, and that is September 28th through October 1st. Staff from the airport will have a booth at the event, and they'll interact with the guests and pass out promo items and promote our hometown airport. So that's all I have for your community events update.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move to item 7. And this is a public hearing. The public hearing is now open, and we'll have a report from Clay Irvin.
Good morning, Clay Irvin, Growth and Resource Management Director. Before you today is a proposed amendment to the B5 zoning district. At the direction of the County Council, we've amended it to include a use that was otherwise not allowed in that district. It's pertaining to health clubs and spas. So basically, if someone wanted to open up a gym, such as like a Planet Fitness or those types of things, they would not now be allowed under the B5 zoning district. We reviewed this, and we feel that it's appropriate that this use be added to that list of B5 zoning categories. If there's any questions, we'll be glad to answer it. Also, for the record, the PLDRC reviewed this and recommended approval unanimously.
Yeah, I have no cards for public participation, therefore I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Patterson.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of ordinance 2017-09, amending the zoning code to add health clubs and spas, permitted principal use in the B5 heavy commercial classification. I believe we have to have a second hearing on it.
Second.
So we'll move this forward to the June 15th second hearing.
Motion is made and seconded. Any other comments?
Who seconded that, please? Thank you, Ms. Wheeler.
Ms. Wheeler, sorry. Any objections? Hearing no objections to the motion carries, and it will be heard. The second hearing will be held on June 15th.
At 10:30 a.m.
That's correct. With that, we'll move to item number 8, and this also is a public hearing, and we'll have the staff report from Mr. Irvin.
Once again, Clay Irvin, Growth and Resource Management. This is an amendment that staff has been working with from folks at the airport. We previously had lists of use that were basically tied to airside industrial uses. In reviewing what our opportunities are for development of the southern 226 acres that we have, that's adjacent to Bevel Road. It became apparent that we needed to expand that definition to ensure that we were covering what types of uses could be allowed in that area and would further our economic goals as well as assist with the development of the airport. So what you see is a request to amend definitions as well as the permitted uses that are allowed in the AP, which is our airport property zoning classification. We've run this by the City of Daytona Beach as part of our interlocal agreement that we have with them to ensure that we have consistency for planning of the Daytona Beach Airport, as well as running it in front of our PLDRC, who recommended approval of this as well. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. As with the last item, this is the first reading. We will need to make sure that in the motion that there's setting for the next public hearing on June 15th at a time certain.
I have no cards to filled out to speak in the public. They will close the public hearing. Ms. Post.
I move to approve the proposed ordinance 2017-11, amending the definitions related to the airport uses and amending the permitted uses in the airport property zoning classification, and that the second public hearing would be the next meeting on the 15th.
June 15 at 10:30 a.m.
Motion made by Ms. Post, seconded by Mr. Lowry. Any?
No, Mr. Patterson.
Oh, Mr. Patterson. My hearing must be picking up. Any objection to the motion? Hearing no objections, the motion passes. We'll move to item number 9. And this is a public hearing, and the public hearing is now open. Looks like we have Mr. Irvin again.
Yes, sir. Clay Irvin, Growth and Resource Management Director. This is the second reading of a proposed rezoning that staff initiated for 1,192 acres that are located on the west side of State Road 44. At last meeting, the council voted 5-1 to recommend approval of the proposed rezoning. At the meeting, Ms. Cusack identified some concerns based on comments from adjacent property owners, specifically tying to the potential impacts of electronic magnetic fields falling from the solar onto adjacent property and having impacts on their health. Also, potential impacts on the value of the property due to what would be seen from the adjacent property. We also received an email earlier this morning from Mr. Stokes, who is an adjacent property owner, who is supportive of the effort from FPL, but has concerns with the rezoning to P. He would much rather have it remain in its current zoning and have to go through a special exception process in the future. We made sure that FPL, who will be occupying the space because they own the property and will be developing the solar farm, if they could come forward and provide technical guidance in regards to the issues raised by Mr. Buell in regards to the EMF and impacts on his property, and in regards to the rezoning to the P as opposed to the special exception. As I stated at the other meeting, the primary reason staff initiated this is that the rezoning to P is in a much more extensive process. In addition, the property owner, based on the concerns raised by county staff, has voluntarily put in a covenant and restriction that limits the types of uses on this property. So therefore, given the fact that it's a critical element of our green inventory in Volusia County, that it has to go through a much more stricter review process through this board for the rezoning to P, and the decisions to strike what could be considered non-compatible uses by FPL, we feel that this is an appropriate method of going forward so that this area could be developed. This type of development is a long-term investment by FPL, so we are confident that it's not going to be a situation where the solar cells come in and then the next day a smelting plant would be built right there the next day. So that's where we're at.
Okay.
If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
I do have 3 people who wish to speak. Mr. Storch, did you want to speak before or after?
I think I'd like to speak before. That may answer some questions.
I'll also give you a chance to reply if you would like.
I certainly appreciate
Thank
that. First of all, for the record, my name is Glenn Storch, and I have to tell you that I think there's really 3 issues that I heard at the last hearing. The first issue I think is so important is the absolute importance of this project. And the project I'm talking about is a solar facility. This solar facility, if you look at this, will actually take down the greenhouse gases that would be equivalent to 12 to 25,000 cars. That's the sort of thing we're talking about. It has absolutely no impact once it is up. you don't have to change the topography, you don't have to do any bulldozing, you don't have to have cars going in and out. You have maybe 3 or 4 trips per day after this is done. The solar panels themselves are only about 6 foot tall. You are looking at the perfect neighbor. And so that's one of the things that I think is so important to deal with, but more importantly, what this does for the county. What this does from an environmental standpoint, it meets some of the criteria and some of the conditions of the comp plan, and it's one of the reasons I know that the staff has been so anxious to work with us to make sure this is done correctly. So that's one. 2, we heard issues regarding notice. I will tell you that I think that Clay is absolutely right. The notice that we have provided in this case, and I've talked to Mike about this, has actually been more than the notice that would have been taken place if we'd gone through a special exception process. A special exception process would require me to provide actual notice to every individual adjoining the property. Instead of that, we provided actual notice to every individual within a quarter of a mile of the property, because that's the way Florida Power and Light works. And on top of that, we then scheduled 2 community meetings to make sure that everyone had the chance to talk about this, to learn about this, to answer any questions, to make sure this is done correctly. And so that's what we've done. We had, I know, over 100 people that was noticed individually. We had a number of people show up at these community meetings. I think from what you can tell is there's only a couple people who were there. I know Mike, of course, is right in the middle of this, so of course he has more interest, but I think he'll tell you the same thing that I'm telling you right now, which is Florida Power and Light is a good neighbor. And that's part of what we're talking about too. We're going to be a good neighbor for 30 years. Once this thing is up and running, you're looking at a 30-year project. Nothing else, I understand there was a concern for a smelting plant or whatever. Nothing else is going in this property other than a solar generation facility. These benign solar panels that literally sit there. And in fact, of course, they don't even collect solar energy at night. So you couldn't, like I said, you couldn't ask for a better neighbor, and it helps the environment so tremendously. But the notice, I thought the notice was very important because, like I say, we've over-noticed this. And I should point out one thing. As far as public notice, obviously you had 2 newspapers in the area give front page headlines. That's pretty good notice. And on top of that, we've also had more public hearings doing it this way as opposed to doing it with special exception. A special exception will only require 1 public hearing before the county council. In this case, we've required 2. So I think we've certainly done a better job, and I've explained this to Mike, and I'm hoping he understands that as well. As to the EMF, we heard the EMF issue. And of course, anytime you have something new coming in, you're always concerned. We take this very seriously. We do. It was interesting to me because some of the things you've got in your notebook, first of all, there's a PowerPoint. We didn't want to go into the PowerPoint itself because it takes too long, and I understand Chairman Kelly's concerns regarding time frames, so we're not going to do the PowerPoint, but I did want you to have the information. Secondly, there are articles regarding the effect of EMFs on solar generation facilities by experts in the field. One of those experts we actually went out, found, and hired to look at this particular site because it was raised as an issue, and I appreciate that, Councilman Cusack, and because we want to make sure we're good neighbors as well. He looked at this, he looked at the parameters, he looked at everything as part of this. It turns out, first of all, that Councilman Lowry was right. It turns out that things like cell phones and hair dryers have far more EMF. Well, and I'll tell you the reason I mention that is because it turns out the can openers have twice as much as the cell phones. I mean, as the hair dryers, which were really high. But they're all more than the transmission facilities that we would come up with. If you'll look at your white paper at the very end of this, the conclusion of the white paper is, at the property line, there will be absolutely no increase in EMFs for Mr. Buell's property. So that's the important thing that come away from this. It will have no impact whatsoever. It will probably have no impact 15 to 20 feet away. But more importantly, obviously 400 feet away, it's going to have no impact. So that was important to us. It was important to Mr. Buell. We actually sat down with Mr. Buell yesterday just to make sure. I think one of the concerns that he had was he thought it was going to be much closer to his property. We explained, I hope he was happier with that. But it's our intent, and it's always going to be our intent, to be a good neighbor, and if someone has concerns, we're going to address them. Is that right, Larry? Yeah. Okay. So that's what's important to us. Now, again, I want to go back just a little bit. This is such an important process. I mean, it's such an important project for our community. It's obviously millions of dollars worth of investment. It is 200 construction jobs coming in. But again, after that takes place, all you'll hear is the birds. And in fact, I will tell you that one of our partners is Audubon, because of the fact this is such a good thing for the community. So I think we've done everything right. Obviously, if you have any questions, we have our entire team here. Chairman, I've provided 2 additional notices to you as to anybody who'd like to. I've got 2 engineers here who will testify if necessary. If it's not, that's fine. Hopefully the information I provided to you in the white paper I provided to you will satisfy any concerns, but if not, we're ready to testify.
I think I have 3 people who wish to speak on this. I think all 3 actually are supportive of it, and hopefully the issue of whether it remains its zoning or it goes to the zoning which is more restrictive will answer Mr. Stokes' concern. But if you'd like to speak, Mr. Stokes.
Ready to go to lunch. I didn't want my letter last night to be missed.
Name and address.
Mike Stokes, 4294 Fallen Leaf Drive, in Smyrna Beach. Told you I was hungry. I didn't want my letter last night to be misleading. I do not want to start all over and go through the whole process again. This is something we do need to move forward on. My main thing was specific conditions to the zoning. Of course, if everything, they have told me we have met, as long as it is recorded in the covenants, anything change of a solar field would have to come back in front of y'all. That's all I ask for.
Okay.
All right.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Stokes.
Thank y'all.
Jeff West. Jeff?
Jeff is our project manager and engineer, and he was
Kelly
basically
Fagan.
And Kelly was the same thing. If necessary, if it's not, if you have questions, I have them to answer the questions.
Ms. Cusack, do you have questions? We'll close the public participation part, and Ms. Cusack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your due diligence in providing all the documentation that I thought was absolutely necessary to have in place. I have read it, and I know more now about electric and magnetic fields and sites than I ever desired to know. However, I think that it's important that we have this dialogue.
Yes,
because if we have one person in this business that is concerned, have a concern, then we need to address it. And I know that it is good, and we want to do what is right, but I want to make sure that we do everything right, including answer the questions and concern of one neighbor. And so therefore, I've read this information. I have found in the documentation nothing that indicates a health risk. And this is from collaboration with many of the experts in the field that deals with health care and health issues. There are no health risks involved here. Of the noise level, it doesn't know where does it specify the exact decibels. However, according to the ambience information that we have, ambience background level, there is no documentation. It said other than it's low. But I don't have decibels. You have
at the property line, it says the Zippo. It says nothing. So at the property line, it's nothing. It has a tendency of dissipating 15 to 20 feet away from the source, which in our case is the inverter, which is several hundred feet away.
And his is 400, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's just needed to have that on the record, that it has been addressed and it would have no impact.
It's why I provided this to the public record.
Right.
I also have copies for the public if it's
I'm good, Glenn.
Okay.
So So talk yourself out. When you're ahead, you need to just be quiet. And then the visual buffers, you have addressed that you will make sure that this will not decrease the value of this Mr. Bueller's property, because you will have good visual buffers. And so I'm good with that. That this will not interfere with his livestock, or his family will not be impacted by this as far as health risk, the ability to sell his property, his real estate values should not decrease. Every concern that I have has been addressed, and the findings are good, and I think that we have a good product here.
Thank you.
And so based on that, Mr. Chair, I would move for the approval of this second reading public hearing.
Made by Ms. Cusack, second by Mr. Patterson, for the case Z-17-024 for the rezoning of the 1,192 acres on the south side of State Road 44 east of Pioneer Trail, west of New Smyrna Beach, from prime agricultural, forestry products, and resource corridor to public use and resource corridor is made and seconded. Any discussion? Ms. Dennis.
Thank you, Councilwoman Cusack. I think that was really good discussion, and thank you for answering all those questions. Here's another question. It's coming down 44 today. I looked over at Kirkland Sod. We're talking about the homeowner, concerned about that. Tell me about the buffer for everybody traveling the 44 corridor.
There will also be a buffer along there. In fact, we have a landscape architect working on this right now. This will be part of the site plan review process. But yes, we have extensive buffering. Where's Clay? There he is. We have extensive buffering along 44, and so the intent is you won't even be able to notice this. Now, there will be a potential to go in there and actually view this project, because this is an important project, but you'd have to go into the area to do so.
So my question is, traveling down 44, there will be enough of a buffer there. I mean, we're talking about the one homeowner. Now we've got everybody on that 44 corridor.
There's enhanced vegetation buffer along 44.
And how deep will that buffer be from 44 out to the first setup?
Jeff? I guess Jeff does get to talk after all.
Yeah, so under the county's, hi, Jeff West, 660 Sundown Circle, St. Augustine, Florida. Good morning, council, and thank you for your time. The buffers, will be working with the county and the Land Development Code to make sure that the buffers along 44 meet the opaqueness requirement. So the buffer will have to be of enough depth and height to meet that opaqueness requirement, so that the project behind it is the visual impact is minimized as much as possible.
I guess I'm not talking visual impact. I'm talking any other impact. I just need you to say on the record that there's no concern for anybody traveling 44 on this project.
Okay, I apologize. I think we all misunderstood, but yes, you're correct. There won't be any impact from the project regarding
no EMF
or anything we else.
Not even if I'm using my cell phone at the same time I'm traveling by these?
With your hairdryer.
It might reduce it.
You with a hairdryer.
That's why you're right. I flutters when you're using your.
No.
Take all can openers out of your vehicles.
Again, you're looking, and this really is only coming from inverters and transformers, is where you're looking at this 15 to 20 feet distance. And that's set far back from where the traveling public is going to be. Yes, your cell phone would be your bigger generator, especially in your case.
Any other questions or discussion?
No. It's good, thank you. Thank you.
Any objections to the motion? Hearing no objections, the motion stands.
Mr. Chair?
Good idea.
In addition to this request, what I took the liberty to do was to talk to FP&L. That's what I was going to, I took the liberty to talk to FP&L because we are working with them on this. This is a big endeavor from our standpoint about considering this technology on our airport. I think that it highlights I think as us as a community being involved with the newer technologies. I think it's a wonderful connection with Embry-Riddle. I talked to Embry-Riddle about it. We're next to the Speedway, and it's also some of the things we're doing with our airport. They have since come back to me and said that they are looking at a place where they could do this technology on our airport to use airport land and to generate electricity, I think, which is behooves us, because I think it serves two purposes. One, I think it connects us and allows us to use property that's not used because you can't, because of the airport, for something productive like producing electricity. But I also think it highlights the use of technology, and I think it bodes well for us because we're trying to attract people to the research park, which I think they will like the aspect that we're using solar technology on the airport. We'd be one of the few airports to do it.
Yeah, I think the uses are unlimited. There's no limit to what we can't do with the technology, especially as much as it's progressed in the last 10 years, even the last 3 years. And, you know, it's at some schools in the county already. There's one at the Speedway that's set up already. And if there was any danger of anything, they certainly wouldn't have put it at Henson Middle School back in the day if there had been any concern whatsoever. So it's there, and we should take advantage of it. And maybe then all the cars can put little collectors on the top of them, and they won't have to plug in. So it's unlimited.
One step at a time.
One step at a time. Thank you very much, Glenn. And Larry, the whole team, thank you for taking the time to make sure that every question was answered. As Ms. Cusack mentioned, we're not taking it lightly because this is a big project. It's worth to get to the bottom, get to the answers, because it's so important that we use the technology we have. And getting to it this way only just makes it easier to go forward. And wherever else we can implement it from a county standpoint, and any place that FP&L wants to put some little collect panels for us for free, we'll certainly consider it. So thank you all very much. And at this time, we'll take a break until 10 to 12, 10-minute break.
If I might add, as we're on break, we have item 11 coming up. I have a special 3-minute video that'll be playing during that time that might help us when we get there. So it's off the record just while we're at recess. You might want to, for your viewing pleasure.
We'll decide if it's pleasure when you're done.
I was amazed to find out what he was saying was all.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, the transmission lines that you drive alongside of. Any moving current sets up.
We should give everybody who comes on the beach a little hat that has little thing sensors. They can sit there and then they can plug into it and they can read.
What do we use as a test? He'll be the test one. Good. Okay.
That was good discussion.
That was good.
No, that's up to you guys. I'm going to have her ask right here when he gets back. No, I don't care what he does. He's supposed to ask whether you're using it right for lunch.
What's that?
I don't know.
Chicken?
Is that chicken? Go ahead.
It is a chicken.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Oh. Okay. What are your names?
Say he. I'm Shannon.
And who are you here with today?
Joku.
Tofu?
Joku. Joku.
What is Joku going to do?
Nope, got it. She's going to play the keyboard.
We have our new words coming up.
Yes, she plays the piano.
She does.
Yes.
She's going to play that keyboard
No
right there.
way.
But
No, she's
yes, she
not.
picked it up very quickly. She's very
Wait a minute.
How do you even know this is out there?
No way. No! That is crazy. I do. I mean, I've never seen that before.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you want
I think they just get overwhelmed by it. You know, they had somebody like talk to them.
Actually, I'm out of tea bags, but I need to. Yeah, they got the Thai tea back there. Just got to sit on the.
I've got one thumb up. Are we ready? We are ready. We'll go ahead and reconvene the county council meeting at 11:59. Mr. Patterson?
Mr. Chair, if I didn't have these two crackers, I'd be gnawing on somebody's arm at the moment, but I would like to make a motion for, I'd prefer a 2-hour lunch break, but I'll take an hour and a half. So my motion is for a 1.5-hour recess for lunch.
I'll second it for a vote.
Motion's made and seconded for an hour and a half lunch.
So how close are we to being done?
30 minutes? Maybe? I don't know.
I think it's going to be longer than that, too.
Oh, well, yeah, it would probably be at least.
45?
Depends on how many more chicken films we have to watch, I think.
I think, in all consideration, if we're talking about less than an hour to go, I'm with whatever you decide, but it seems to me that if we're that close to being done, if we're out of here 1 o'clock, that seems reasonable to me, Mr. Chair.
I mean, again, a lot of it's going to depend on the other comments at the end. I think we can get through what we have on the agenda.
Well, bear in mind that we have a 1 o'clock luncheon.
Okay.
And maybe that'll cut down someone's.
Well,
Small
let's
talk.
all, I think we as a council, we're dealing with this at every meeting. I think we need to say, we need to start calling a lunch break, because it's not just us, it's staff. And then the longer we go, and then staff, they don't get the lunch, and we go on, and nobody gets the break. So I think we need to, as a council, decide what we want to do here. But I think we need to start calling lunch breaks. I do. And maybe if this is too late, then maybe we call it, instead of taking the 10-minute break, we call the lunch break at that time and go for an hour and a half.
That was my bad. We probably should have just gone
Maybe
ahead
next time
then.
we'll do that.
I thought about that, and then.
So it was pretty close to
It is.
take a break.
I-
Sure.
I'm okay. We have two, I know, that want to go ahead and break for lunch. Can I hear two more that want to break for lunch? We'll just do it that way if we have to vote on it. Need two more votes.
What? I'm the one who made the motion.
There's a motion, so there's a vote on
Motion
the
is
floor.
made.
I'll say we take lunch, I think.
There's three. We need one more.
Well, the chair can vote.
Chair wants to do what everybody else wants to do.
I'm just going to go.
Since we're doing this kind of informally, let's go ahead and try to see.
The thing is, it's not so much the people that are sitting here, it's the staff we've got sitting out there that may have to come in. So that, it's a lot of people that are involved, and I think it's only fair to not only to us, but also to our county staff. I think it's important.
You think maybe that we can, at our next meeting, make that decision up front that we will have a break at lunch from 12 to 1?
Yep.
12 to 1:30?
And 1:30?
Yep.
So everyone can plan on that?
We have 4 votes. Let's go ahead and break for lunch for today for that. And
No, we do
We
not,
didn't call the
Mr.
vote.
Chair.
The vote, what was it called? You have to call
we
the
just
vote.
kind of.
I was talking about the next meeting that we can
Oh.
plan to have that.
Yeah, I think Mr. Cusack was looking at a compromise, saying maybe out of Mr. Patterson's comment that from now on, we will
That we
just
will-
schedule lunch from 12 to 1:30,
Mhm.
and then it'll be predictable.
Okay.
And that way, today we can wrap it up, and then next meeting, we will already know up front that we will schedule lunch from 12 to 1:30.
That makes a lot of sense.
Unofficially, we have 4 to stay and finish, 3 to go for lunch. And
Officially, there's a motion on the floor. Got to take the vote. There's a motion and a second. You do?
all in favor of breaking for lunch, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same symbol. Aye. Motion fails 4-3.
Got it.
So therefore, we'll go to item 10.
Mr. Chair?
Sorry.
So that I can clarify for the council, would you like then, I'd like to know if the council wants me to do this, on the agenda that I do, should I show 12 o'clock to 1:30? Now, you'll have to vary it a little bit if you're in the middle of something, but should I show that in the future agendas?
I'll make that motion, if we need to make a motion on it.
I'd like to know, because I have to prepare the agenda for you. 12, it'd be 12-ish to 1:30-ish, okay?
So today, we'll try to go ahead and And finish
wrap it up. But I need to know whether the council wants me to do that, and if I will, then I'll figure that in.
Bear that in mind, because all of my cookies are gone. I only have a half of a peanut butter and honey sandwich left. Heather Post has a few crackers and peanut butter. So, and Pat's got a couple, so we can continue on.
Mr. Patterson, you're the only one who hadn't looked at me. Is that okay with you if I do that in the future on the agenda? 12-ish to 1-ish for lunch scheduled.
Take a cracker out of his mouth.
All right.
Okay,
Let's
I
go,
didn't hear
move
any
on.
negatives. Okay.
Item 10, Mr. Irvin, I believe.
Actually, Mr.
Actually,
Chair, that's going to be me.
Jamie's gonna handle that for us on item 10.
Okay.
The proposed First Step shelter is on City of Daytona Beach property, which is not currently contiguous to the city and is not able to be annexed under the normal procedures. In these situations, we use what we call a Chapter 171, Part 2 interlocal service boundary agreement. In those agreements, the local governments can agree on an area in which a city may annex without having to comply with the standard annexation criteria. You can agree on joint planning and municipal services provision for fire, water, police, any of the services you would normally provide. That process starts by the municipality proposing through a resolution that we enter into an agreement. The City of Daytona Beach did that on May 17th. This is our responding resolution. There's a corrected resolution that's been uploaded because we didn't have the city's resolution number when we uploaded the agenda item. We've now corrected those numbers in there. The next steps are as such. Once you pass this responding resolution, the city has a process by which they have to adopt by ordinance through 2 hearings. For us, for this type of an ordinance, it is only 1. They are scheduling their first reading on June 7th. We will schedule the adoption resolution on June 15th, and they will adopt their final ordinance on the 21st. That is to stay in coordination with you all seeing the First Step Shelter Agreement on June 15th. So you will hear this interlocal service boundary agreement and then the First Step Shelter Agreement, so that we will have said, yes, you may take jurisdiction of this land, and then you will agree on the First Step Shelter. So that's the process we're going to be following. Again, this is our responding resolution saying that we're going to enter into the agreement. We have been working diligently with city staff. We think we are almost done with all of the technical language going back and forth. They have been wonderful to work with, and we will have that on your June 15th agenda for you to adopt.
Okay.
I think this bodes well for the process because this was something that we said we needed from them. They took the time to send it over here. And as Jamie said, you would get the final approval for the money after they've approved what you would give them for the next meeting, and then they would have the final step in the annexation process, which would be their first meeting in July. So this bodes well, I think, for the process.
Okay, we're going to need a motion for this at this point. Is there a motion for? Motion by Wheeler. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Cusack. Any further discussion? Any objection to the motion? Hearing no objection, the motion stands. Passed. We'll move now to item 11. Mr. Irvin, fly away, baby.
Well, I don't want to have egg on my face.
Is that a yolk?
Clay Irvin, Director of Growth and Resource Management. This is a discussion item so you can provide staff with direction in any kind of amendment to our current codes. It was brought up at several meetings that we currently have a limitation for the number of fowl, which consist of chickens, ducks, and similar type of birds in our residentially zoned areas. This does not apply to agricultural lands, only areas that have residential zoning. And it's limited to 1. There's been concerns identified that this is not consistent with proper methods of raising backyard chickens, and that we need to look at other standards and see what we can do to make changes to the code in order to bring them into consistent standards that are being implemented elsewhere. Your staff contacted counties of similar nature, as well as all 16 cities within Volusia County to try and find a standard, a norm, And as you can see by the attached spreadsheets that are in your report, that it's across the entire limit. Some cities do not allow this. Some counties do not allow it as well. What you're seeing, though, however, is there is a recognition in some places that allow upwards between 4 to 8 chickens in residentially zoned areas. They have some standards in regards to what training you have to do. Specifically, Hernando County has a requirement that you take a class in proper raising and maintenance of backyard chickens. There's also standards in regards to basically the size of the coop that has to be maintained, whether or not you can allow the chickens to free range or not, and if they have to be supervised if they're in your backyard. We do not make policies. All I can sit here and say is that what we're seeing in consultation with others who have got a much better understanding, and I am speaking of specifically of Ms. Sharon Gamble, who is courteous to show up here. She is from the University of Florida Extension Agency, and she actually teaches a backyard chicken class here in Volusia County so that folks can be knowledgeable about what to do. So if there's any very specific technical questions, she is available so if anyone has any questions. The main thing that we're seeing is that the number of chickens sometimes are tied to your maximum number of pets. So in Volusia County, we currently have a maximum number of 5 for residential zoning districts. So as you go through this, if you want to answer the questions we have put into the staff report to you so we can get a better feel on how you want to handle the chickens. And I'm referring to page 2 of 2 of this agenda item. At the very end, the first thing that staff needs to know from you is, do you want to have this apply to all fowl, which means ducks, turkeys, chickens, those types of things? It does not mean pigeons, but it does not apply to parrots, peacocks, and other types of non-fowl. Fowl is a domesticated bird kept for its flesh and eggs, including ducks, turkeys, geese, pigeons, and there's a specific fauna that's identified, and I cannot pronounce the name. So what you're seeing is that, do you want to just limit it to chickens, or do you want to keep it open to all fowl? After you get through that issue, then you have to say, is 1 too small? Do we need more? As I said, we tie it into the number of pets would be a clean and easy way of handling it, and in Volusia County, the maximum number of pets are 5. Do you want to set?
Mr. Chair, excuse me, can you ask the question?
Yeah, I was thinking that for this, since we're asking for direction, I would like to have discussion before we get someone with a motion that we have to amend. So let's try to discuss this, and if you have a question of Mr. Irvin now, I think that would help expedite.
You said that, right, thank you, Mr. Chair. If fowl, does that include today all of those that you called off?
Yes,
The
ma'am.
3?
Yes, ma'am. That's
So,
the way
so
our,
you're not looking for a change in that part?
we're just we just want to make sure that we are.
We understand that, what it includes?
Yes, ma'am. And if
Okay.
you have any objections to that, other animals other than chickens that are considered fowl, if you have an objection to that, to let us know now so we can correct it.
So in other words, do we want this to include geese, pigeons, everything else, or are we
It
just
does
talking about
now,
chicken?
does it?
It does now.
It does now, for 1. You have 1 now for that.
Jamie?
Yes, it's 1 fowl now.
Right.
If you said 5 fowl,
It could be
5
any of those
fowl would
others.
be any of those
Right.
birds.
Right.
Or you can just single out chickens and say 1 fowl except backyard
Chickens.
chickens shall allow. So that's the question we're asking you.
Yeah, Jamie, I'm in agreement with that, and with this too, I think it's important to make the distinction that we're talking residential zoning.
Yes.
And I
Right,
think
'cause-
another important piece to this that I would be open to is including that in the total number of a household, because, I mean,
So the first answer, I want a consensus from council, chicken only?
yes.
If we're going to do this, chickens
Everybody okay
only.
with this? We're discussing chicken only, fowl
We
will
should be
remain the
careful,
same.
Pat's really hungry down there.
Pat's going to agree. Okay, so we'll keep this kind of informal to do this discussion if it's okay with the council. So if you've got something, spit it out or cluck it up, whatever you want to do.
I don't want to get too technical on special requirements for containment and maintenance. I mean, we don't want to be
Yeah, I am,
chicken
yeah.
Nazis here. This is a
Yeah,
little too far.
I'm with you on that.
Common sense. And how many times do we get a violation or a concern about this in reality?
Not many.
Well, let's not make one where there doesn't exist.
Well,
The goal is just to expand a property owner that chooses to have 4 or 5 chickens only on their property. If they're going to be good stewards. I mean, not for nothing. If there's a problem, we'll get a call. We'll come back and visit it. But that's it. I don't want to take it any further than that, period.
Here's what I would feel comfortable doing. We've had one person out of 517,000 ask for more chickens. One person has asked, and we're going to take the time to try to see if we can correct this. Why can't we make it conditional? If you want up to 5, you come in and apply for them and you get them. Everybody else sticks with 1, and that way it's simple.
Special exception?
Yeah, you get a special, you want more than 1 chicken, you fill out an application, you do it. You can either limit it to where they have to go through training, they have to be in a residential neighborhood. If I lived in a residential neighborhood and my neighbor had 5 chickens, I wouldn't necessarily like it. But if they went through a process and they kept them contained, unless you have a large enough land, I think that we need to, it is.
And I think that's the next issue that we really need to address. Some of our residential districts have 0 lot line.
That's my point.
0 lot line. So are we talking about
And some of the
R1
lots are
through
really
4?
small.
Yes, and that's why what Mr. Irvin said, the next question is, in all of our residential zoning districts, or just the ones that have a certain size lot? And he can walk you through the lot sizes.
But before we leave that, yeah, because I'll be very honest with you, I heard 2 distinctly different things from the chair and vice chair. I heard a permit from Mr. Kelly, and I heard special exception from Ms. Denny's. A special exception has to go through PLDRC.
And forget that word.
Okay.
That was one of those switcheroos.
Right.
Put that
We're
in the
doing a switcheroo on the
column.
special exception.
Right.
Very good. Okay, so it would be
That
an
was a switcheroo.
administrative staff review of a permit.
Right. So that way a person could apply for more, and then if you want to determine the conditions based upon lot size, and I think it should be at least 1/4 of an acre of lot.
At least.
At least.
At least.
Or more.
I was thinking a half acre in my
Half
thought,
acre,
and I've probably got more
20,000
experience
square
than most
feet,
on
not
that.
that big.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say, since it is residential, I am not in favor of doing it, period, or having the chickens in residential areas, because there are so many differences in the lot lines and things, and living in a residential area, there is an expectation there, and for quality of life of others.
Yeah, and I think 3 of us were of that opinion, and it's why we're here. There were 4 that wanted.
Just saying.
I was one of the 3.
And I agree, like some lots are 50 by 100, like down at the beach. There's no way in the world you want to do that. But then there's some, like where I'm at, that's a lot of RR around me, are 2.5, 4, and 5 acres parcels.
Well,
And to restrict that, I know a lot of people probably haven't applied for a permit or anything that probably do have those, so.
The rural residential would not be restricted to 1.
Oh, okay, it would not be, okay.
This is only applying to basically the R1 through R9.
Okay.
Right, which is
All
why.
right, my mistake, I understand that, thank
But
you.
the R1, we have a lot of 0 lot lines.
Well, we're excuse me, yeah. We're talking in the unincorporated area, correct?
Correct.
I mean, this is not, but the cities got their own little deal.
Right.
That's right.
So when you've got homeowner associations in certain areas, they usually would restrict that.
They self-restrict, they self-govern. Right.
So it would be, so we're just looking, like where I lived, I know there's chickens all, the sandhill cranes running around there, I guess, and I love having sandhill cranes, but somebody told me they're pretty good eating too. So I don't know, I've never had one.
Okay.
Only if they're blackened.
Okay.
But the,
Heather, are you here? Heather Noth is here. Can you just hold on? Let us try to see where we're going to try to go. You did apply originally, and you're the one that brought this to us, I believe. Let us discuss, if you will, so we can see if anything that we're going to come up with will work with you, if that's okay. You okay with that? Okay, thank you.
So
Let's continue on.
We're working on lot size right now, because that will control which residential zoning categories it can go in. Your R9s are your 0 lot lines, those are the little teeny weeny ones. The R1s have the biggest lots. So I heard quarter acre, I heard half an acre.
Let me just say the city of Ormond Beach is 5 acres, so.
Talking city.
I know,
We're not-
I'm just giving examples because
Right.
we were
We're
given
not
all the examples, so. In the county area, I'm just
Yes.
saying 5 acres is a
Can
good
you clear the fog a little bit, Clay?
number.
I can see you're desperate to. Go ahead.
No, I'm just trying to, because again, we're tying it to our R zoning, which
Okay.
is for basically urban and suburban sections. And so Scott and I were just verifying that R1, R2, R3, and are basically anywhere up to 10,000 square feet. It goes from a half acre up to that area. Once you start getting into the R4, R5, that's when you start
I
Uh,
wouldn't
getting
go from a half acre up to 10,000 feet.
or 10,000. Well, R1 is going to be your half acre. R2 is 12,500.
It's going down.
So again, I would recommend that if you do not want it on these smaller lots,
Right, you said up to a half acre, which is 21,200 feet or whatever, 22,000 feet.
Those are minimum lot sizes.
those are minimum lot sizes. So the smallest lot in an R1 is going to be a half acre.
Okay, what zoning is for a half acre?
R1. R1 zoning in Volusia County allows for a minimum lot size of 1/2 acre.
Okay, I misunderstood.
That's half
what
of
you
a football field about.
Well,
Yeah.
20,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And so then you have R2, which takes it to 12,500 square feet. Then you go into R3, R4. What we would recommend, if your concern is about the 50-foot or 7,500 square foot lots, that you would basically limit more than one chicken to the R1, 2, and 3, then that would address the majority of your concerns.
Okay, and what is R2? What's the land size of it?
12,500.
That's a fourth of an acre,
Yes.
About, yeah. A little more.
which is really small.
Well, candidly, right now, what you're looking at is that the average area assigned to a chicken, based on our research, is around 10 square feet per chicken. So if you limit it to 5, that means 50 square feet. That's a roughly 20 by 25 area in your backyard,
Or 10 by 5.
or 10 by 5, or 50. So,
And then we have to decide, do you want them caged or free roaming? Are they going to have to be responsible for cleaning up after them? That was one of the big issues that we had in addressing it.
But
I don't know why you'd treat a chicken any different than you would a dog, honestly.
just keeping them contained. What you're seeing is the majority of the areas, and again, I'm going to, in a second here, I'm going to sit down and let Ms. Gamble answer some of these questions because I can see she knows the answers. But what we're seeing is that majority of folks or communities are requiring containment on the property. And what they're saying is if you're going to build a coop, you have to have a minimum size per chicken just for the safety of the bird. So what you're seeing is that they're looking for an area of roughly 10 square feet per chicken and roughly 3 to 4 square feet for a coop. And these are minimum standards for the protection of the bird more
Yeah.
than anything else.
Yeah.
The containment on site is to minimize the
Well,
impacts
let's
on
go
the
back to
adjacent-
the area-wise. Do we want to restrict it based upon the size of the lots?
Say,
What do we have today? Is it restricted?
Today, you can have one regardless,
Correct.
and with no lot size.
And someone proposed that maybe if you want to do different, then you would have a,
increase.
Have a
to
larger lot.
increase, you would do an individual case.
And they could, and they
So
could apply.
why can't we go with that?
If it's going to
Can't we
be,
go
an-
with that?
if
Let's
it's
just
going to
keep it
be an
simple.
administrative approval by staff, there have to be specificity. Other than that, it's considered arbitrary and capricious, and you've granted your administrative staff broad discretion that they're not entitled to.
Exactly.
That's your responsibility.
let's-
So
let's
if we're
let-
going to do it by permit, you have to have
All right,
specificity.
We can do a permit. Currently, you can have one. If you want up to 5, because the statistics say you should have odd numbers, not even numbers. 5 will do better with, that's what it said on Google.
Yeah, it does.
But
They do.
anyway,
They're a flock. They're better
they're a
than
flock,
just
so
having one.
they like to be odd numbers so that they have a vote, somebody wins and somebody loses. If it's even numbers, they don't like tie votes. But anyway, if we do it where we keep it where it's 1, if you want more than 1 and your zoning is R1, you can have up to 5 or 4.
R1 is half acre.
Yeah,
That's good.
that's good for me. I probably can speak from experience. I think quarter acre is too small, especially if you're going to let them roam. And people are going to provide a coop, because if you don't, an owl or something's going to get them at night. You know, anybody with any sense is going to have a.
We'll have them, they'll be gone.
Yeah.
Raccoons, snakes, they'll be
Oh,
gone.
yeah, yeah. So anybody that has any sense that wants to keep their chickens is going to obviously, you know, provide a. I don't know that we need to go through all this permitting. We don't ask people to get permits for 5 dogs or specify how big the doghouse has to be and all that.
If you
I
give
think we're
this-
creating a code nightmare for our people.
That's true.
You know,
If you continue to give specificity, we can write a code amendment that lays this out. So your next step is your setbacks. Is it going to be the same thing as a shed? I mean, accessory structure. Are we going to, whatever the accessory structure
I say keep it
setback?
simple. That's my thinking.
But the thing about it is, we've got to think about the other 130 or 40,000 that may not want a chicken as well. It can't always be just the
Amen.
1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 that want 5 chickens, because I don't believe everybody's going to want more
To be
chickens.
in a neighborhood with chickens.
But
Yeah.
I don't want to live in a chicken neighborhood.
I don't want a llama next door. I don't want
Right.
chickens.
My neighbor's chicken has never gotten into my trash, but my neighbor's dog has.
We're talking rural, we're talking half acre. Let's not go into areas that we don't need to be
Half an
going
acre is
into.
not
So
rural,
let's
though.
stick with half an acre, up to 5, same setbacks as sheds.
And then the
What else
last question is whether or not you want to require cooping at night or some other containment criteria.
Some type of containment, but
Do you want it just contained on site?
Contained on site,
On
period.
the property,
Mhm.
and then it's,
period.
I say the simpler we keep this, the
That's-
better. That's the way I feel.
That's pretty
Heather,
simple.
you've heard what we're discussing. Heather, you can come forward and state your name, and this is where it's kind of going, so I know we've heard your appeal before, so go ahead and
My
state
name's
your name and
Heather
address. Sorry.
Knuth, and I'm a resident of New Smyrna Beach. I would like for you all to be able to hear what Ms. Gamble has to say. She's a wealth of information about backyard chickens, and I don't know that you need a half an acre to have backyard chickens. You just need a coop and a small amount of area for them to have a run.
Okay.
I don't have half an acre, I have a third.
Right.
And they're fine, and they're, you know.
And you even have sleepovers.
Yes, we have sleepovers.
What about
So,
neighbors?
I've only had difficulty with one neighbor, and that was because of another issue. My other neighbors adopted a chicken so that I could, you know, they could keep them together. So right now, my neighbors and I have 3. But I wouldn't see a problem with having 6 where I am, if I were able to keep them.
They don't require a lot of room.
No, they don't.
I'm sorry, you
And
said you had a
they're-
problem with one neighbor for what?
It was basically an issue with our dog. So, but she called about anything she could get us in
Okay.
trouble for. So that's when I found out that you were only allowed to have 1 chicken per household.
Right.
Because nobody tells you when you go to the feed store. They say, "Oh, you live in the county, you can have chickens."
Okay,
So,
well,
and I have many neighbors. I know you think that I'm the only one who's interested in this, but I know tons of people who have chickens.
But they're welcome to come and apply and get and have more. But right now we have a rule which says you can have 1. We're trying to accommodate those, but we also need to protect those that don't want chickens.
Right.
And I think that's
Which
trying.
they're not a problem.
Right.
Yeah, and I have a third of an acre, and it's plenty of room.
Yeah, basically 14,000 square feet.
She's asked if a lady could speak. I don't want a 30-minute presentation.
No,
But
we don't.
if you can,
Just to
2 or 3
let-
minutes, I
Some of us have gone through this before in other jurisdictions. I went through hours and
Deltona,
hours in
yeah.
Ormond.
Right.
I think
And-
according to Clay, you only needed, what, 10 feet for a chicken or something? But
But she's the expert. She teaches classes.
With all
on it.
due
But
respect,
still
council will decide
Okay.
what
Quality of
we
life.
want to hear.
Right.
Okay.
And right now, I don't think I appreciate the work that she's done.
Okay.
We have the records of that. We have the records of what others are doing, and I think it's going to be up to us then
Okay.
to try to decide. Let us finish deliberating. We know that you have successfully have, how many now? Do you have 6, 7, 8?
Oh, don't.
How many
You don't
do you
have
have?
to answer that if you don't
Oh.
want to, because it's not in.
Well, she says she has
Chickens.
1, but she
We have
babysits.
1 and 2 other friends.
Okay.
Okay.
So here's where we are. We need to confirm if you think a half acre is too big or too small.
Let's go back to a third of an acre. What code does that put us in, James?
If I just talked to Clay, if you did R1, it's a half an acre minimum. R2 is 12,000 square feet minimum,
That's
closer
a fourth
to
of an acre, close to a fourth of an acre,
Okay.
a little over a fourth.
A little over a fourth. Here's the thing I think is easy to understand. If you make it simple to begin with, which is what this sounds like it is, if you start somewhere, we can always change it if you want to change it. Start simple. I think the biggest issue is if you just want it to be R1 or R2. Then it's easy for them to implement.
Okay.
You could argue R2 maybe, but you would never go worse, more.
R2 is like a quarter of an acre. Okay, I'm good with that.
R2.
Okay, we'll go with R2, one chicken. You can apply, and you can base the other situations, the containment, and up to 5, 4, 3.
Well, let's stick with the dog count. Makes it simple. 5.
5. Keep it at the 5, that the others go up to 5, R2 by permit.
But no roosters?
No roosters.
No roosters.
I'm good with that.
And containment.
Mine
Jamie, do you
doesn't
have
know night from day.
Jamie, do you have enough direction?
I have enough direction, but I want to be clear.
She wants to be exact.
R1 and R2 set minimum lot sizes.
And that's what we're going to base this on.
You
upon.
can be in another zoning district, such as R3, and have a half an acre. Those are minimum lot sizes.
Understand. The R1 could have 2 acres.
Yes. So I just don't want anybody to be confused.
But we're trying to keep it simple. So
I understand that.
With the R1, R2.
But I don't want anybody to come back and say, well, wait a minute, this person has a third of an acre. And I say to you, yes, but you told me R1 and
Okay,
R2.
let's put the caveat in there, put a comment, whatever you want to call it, just minimum 1/3 acre. If it's
Minimum
more-
1/3
minimum
acre.
1/3 acre, and then let the Rs fall where they.
And we'll, when we bring it back to you, we'll do a full explanation of how this will,
Okay.
and
we have up to 5 and no roosters.
So we're not going to do with a fourth of an acre? That's
No.
kind of where we were a second
now,
ago.
we're going to do a third of an acre,
Okay.
and then we'll analyze which zoning those are most likely to be in, and we'll provide you with that
I don't have a dog in the
information when we
fight, so
bring the
it doesn't
ordinance
matter.
back.
Okay, and bring
Now,
that back.
This will take 2 hearings, because this is a change to the permitted uses in the zoning categories. This is like the AP zoning you guys did earlier. This one requires 2 hearings.
Okay, so bring us one back and we'll look at it and hopefully you've got all the information you need and everyone okay? We've got direction? There's the direction.
There it is.
We got it.
Heather, should be okay.
I'm the only
All
one.
I want to know is, does that lady's
The only one
chickens, any of them play the
dissenting
piano? That's all I want to know.
And if the chickens that are out there play piano, you get a real
Let 'em
special
have
exception.
their darn chickens.
Chair,
Forget
if you would just keep this in pecking order, I think we will be just fine.
Here we go.
My 2 cents worth here is I grew up with chickens. We had a boatload of chickens. Nobody ever complained about them. We lived out in the county. So this whole thing is kind of a crazy talk to me.
It is.
Really. And,
But there's a difference
that-
between rural and residential and having farm
Well,
animals. and-
growing up in the caves, Pat, it didn't really matter, you know?
You want farm animals and,
I grew up with chickens too,
On the
but we
beach,
had
I
a
mean.
farm.
yeah.
So,
I didn't have a farm. We were in a residential area. Everybody had chickens in the neighborhood. We had horses too. But
I think everybody in the city of Hialeah has chickens too. I've been down through there.
okay. Clay, we'll move back to item 11 then. Oh, that was it. That was 11, sorry. We won't go to 11. We'll go to 12, and that is an appointment for item 12, appointment to Daytona Beach Racing and Recreational Facilities. Any council member may make a nomination. We have one position. We have one applicant. Does anyone?
Me.
Oh, you have
Yeah,
your light
yep,
on.
yeah.
Ms. Wheeler.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to nominate Jeff Hurt, appoint Jeff Hurt to the Daytona Beach Racing and Recreational Facilities Commission.
Oh, 81%.
And Jeff Hurt has been
He-
nominated
yeah,
for
Or
appointment.
reappointment, actually.
Nominated for appointment to a four-year term beginning July 2nd. Does this require a second? No seconds required. Any objection to Jeff Hurt being appointed to a four-year term for the Daytona Beach Racing and Recreational Facilities Commission? Any objection? Hearing no objection, the motion stands. We'll move to item 13, appointment to Volusia County Industrial Development Authority. Nomination, any person can nominate. We have two people. Sorry?
I would,
Ms.
Mr.
Post.
Chair, I have a question for legal on this. In reading, it says any council member may make the appointment serving on this board constitutes a county office is subject to the dual office holding clause. And I see where Kent Sharples is one of them. He's already on that, whatever it is, beach committee. Would that be dual office holding there?
The committee would not be in office.
Okay, I just want to clarify, because I have an appointment to make here in a little bit.
Okay. Ms. Post.
I would like to make the appointment of Wayne Van Orden to the Volusia County Industrial Development Authority. He's from Ormond Beach.
George, you're looking at me. Mr. Patterson, your name is up after hers, and George was looking like he was going to comment.
That was from the last thing.
Okay. Wayne Van Orden has been nominated to be appointed
Wait a
to...
minute, wait a minute. I want to nominate Kent Sharples.
That's fine.
Okay.
Kent Sharples has been nominated along with Wayne Van Orden.
Can we do them both at once?
Well, there's only one position.
Correct.
So we were going to... Any other nominations for the appointment?
Oh, I see. Okay.
All in favor of Wayne Van Orden, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor of Kent Sharples, say aye.
Aye.
Kent Sharples has been reappointed to serve on the Volusia County Industrial Development Authority. Item 14, appointment to the Children and Families Advisory Board. The chair and District 4 and 5. There's no application on 4, none on 5. I have not been able to speak to either one of the two, and until this is such an important committee.
I've been doing some research. I have not been able to get anyone yet to volunteer.
I have been putting out feelers and talking to so many different people, and everyone that has been interested has not lived in my district. So I'm still really, really looking for someone to serve on the
This is all of the
Children and
committee,
Families
all of these
Advisory Board.
boards are very important, and especially one like this. I would rather have some understanding and knowledge, at least someone. I would have thought the two that had applied would have felt the need maybe to contact one of us, maybe, or not.
They don't.
But they didn't, so that will have to come back to us, Marcy. Looks like we're moving to public participation, right? We have no cards on that.
No slips.
At this point, we will then now move to closing comments and reports and suggestions from Ms. Post. You start.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to say, obviously I was out with pneumonia, and I'd like to say that, especially with it being in the paper for some reason, I truly appreciate the outpouring of support and well wishes from everyone. Thank you. I also want to point out the Daytona Regional Chamber is having, they normally have a breakfast once a month at LPGA, and June 8th at 7:30 at LPGA Clubhouse, they are having their legislative summary. So if you are interested in the changes and updates that occurred during the legislative session and that affect Volusia County, I would suggest going to that. Our senators and representatives are going to be attending that and giving their updates. The other thing is today is the start of hurricane season, and I see our coastal person in the audience, and so I want to make sure that everybody is preparing for this year. The other thing is the appointments to the Beachside Development Council. Are we doing that now?
Sure.
Okay. If I wanted to double check if Councilwoman Wheeler are you confirmed on your appointment and you're not?
There was a lot of confusion. I nominated originally Paul Zimmerman. Appointed, and then I rescinded that only because Tony Grippa had been here speaking, and he was the one that was trying to organize, and I realized after our speaking that no one had nominated him or appointed him. So, Ms. Post, if you have a preference, I'll rescind that for you to go ahead and appoint him. He's already.
I would very much appreciate that, and since I
do
had
that.
initially appointed him, thank you. So
Yeah.
I would like to appoint Tony then.
Okay.
Thank you.
As long
Do
as
we
he's
have to
appointed.
approve her
that's-
Yes,
rescind?
thank you.
No,
Thank-
Okay,
no.
okay.
As
Just making
long
sure.
as he's appointed, and then I would like to see someone from the beachside community, Sons of the Beaches, just to have a voice, and that would probably be Paul Zimmerman.
Okay, so that's your appointment, and it's duly noted, and I think we had that discussion. I know you weren't here, but we had that discussion back and forth at that time, so the board is set, and
No, I didn't.
is not, 'cause Mr. Patterson doesn't have an appointment.
Yes, do you want me to wait till my turn?
No, go ahead. You want, while we're doing this, sure.
I talked to John Albright, and he is willing to serve on the Beach Advisory Board.
Awesome.
Well, I'm glad we have at least one female on the board with Miriam Gyabi, just saying.
Ms. Cusack, you have made all of yours on it, right?
Yeah.
We, okay.
So is that it?
But it's trying to even it out, balance things out. Okay, so no, continue on, Ms. Post.
Okay, and then the last thing was I wanted to point out again that I am still looking for anyone that is interested in the Children and Families Advisory Board. You must live in District 4 to cover that position, so
And I'm looking for the same thing in
District
District 5 as well, Deltona, DeBerry area.
if anyone is
enterprise
interested, they
posting.
can contact us or Marcy Zimmerman and put in an application, but very important position.
I wonder, while we're talking about this, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if there's any way we could put a public service announcement or anything else that we really would like to have people to step up and apply for some of these. I know.
I think I've seen that too, but yeah, if we could continue to.
Yeah, we can.
And maybe even get the Observer in Ormond to run that
That's a great idea.
for Zone 4.
Okay.
Check some of the
I'll call-
leadership classes
I'll
at
call
the
Emily.
Chambers of Commerce. They're usually pretty good to recruit.
Right.
That would be a good place. I'd ask them.
Okay.
Ask your Chambers leadership group.
And I'm also looking for an electrician for the construction. Marcy, I forgot the official name, but the construction board.
CLCA, Construction Licensing.
Thank you. But an electrician in District 4. I've contacted the Volusia Building Industry Association and a number of other groups, but still looking for that. So if you know a good electrician who would be interested, please let me know. And that's all I have.
Okay. Ms. Wheeler.
This is on kind of a personal note, but I would like prayers for Kent Sharple's son, who just had I think this is his third brain cancer surgery yesterday. From what I heard this morning, he's doing well, and I would just like everyone to keep his entire family in their thoughts and prayers. He does have 2 small children, so we just need to be thinking about him. Thank you.
Ms. Cusack. Ms. Cusack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My only comment today is that we will be having the NAACP award banquet on Friday, and I hope to see some of you there. I'd love to have you there. And it's always good to have a friendly face in the crowd, and I would love to have my colleagues there. Thank you so much. That's all I have. thank you for your support in that effort, too.
You know I'll be there.
Thank you.
Ms. Denny's.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple things. First of all, council, what we used to have, and I talked with staff about this, we used to have a council meeting follow-up update attached with our agenda, and what this is every time a council member asks a question and has direction or has a project they want more information on, they would direct the manager would direct staff, and then we would get an update. Remember when we used to get that? Well, we haven't been getting that. We're going to start getting it. You're going to start seeing it in your agenda, the date, who asked for it, where it is, what department it's in, and when it gets completed. It won't be taken off the list until completion. So that will be included in our agendas. Going forward again, Mr. Eckert, we talked about the Spruce Creek Rising issue. I'm just going on the record for that and the petition for remediation down to Spruce Creek. We've got an issue down there with some homeowners and a nonprofit, Spruce Creek Rising, and I think Mr. Kelly, Mr. Chair, you were copied in this too. So it's I don't know that we have an legal issue here or response regulatory because of issues, Mr. Eckert, but if we could keep, I'm just going on the record with this one with Spruce Creek Rising, if you could keep us apprised and anything we could do to help mitigate this issue would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Now the request, we'll see what we can do to assist him, but the request was that he appear in front of the council. But in the meantime, we'll see if there's any funding that might be available.
Yeah, maybe behind the background, if we can't be the lead agency, but maybe we can help connect those that can help with that. Along with that, Ms. Seaman, I asked you to, what was that? The Webster Creek Mitigation Bank. It appears that this is heading up there still, St. John River Water Management District, and the question is who owns the submerged lands, and I don't think we've had a legal answer yet, have we, on who owns those submerged lands?
No, ma'am. They've asked for several extensions on their permit. The survey is supposed to be completed. I don't know enough about who's doing the survey to know whether or not they're meeting the requirements. Those determinations are made by the Division of State Lands in Tallahassee. They have a survey team up there that determines what's sovereign submerged lands. We are monitoring it for you. We will continue to monitor it, but we don't have the data at this time to provide you with an answer as to what they're claiming and whether that conflicts with the state's sovereign submerged lands.
And I appreciate that response, and I know you've been very helpful in the background, but those are the type of issues, council members, that'll show up on this list, the Webster Creek Mitigation Bank and the Spruce Creek Rising issue, where we are, so it stays in the forefront at least while we go, because these could be legal issues for us here in the future. I want to pass this out really quickly. Joanne Magley referred to this. This is really important, this First Sun Trail. If you could put that up there, Sue, I think you've got a picture of this. This groundbreaking ceremony, this is big because what this is going to do in the Coast to Coast Trail, the Coast to Coast Trail goes out at Brevard. So when we're looking at all the money Volusia County does in this great trail system that has happened through the years, it made no sense that it wouldn't come to the coast, to the ocean, to the beach somewhere. So what we've worked on in the past several years was, well, actually 2 years ago, this is going to connect Edgewater to New Smyrna Beach, and actually we'll be putting a trailhead in New Smyrna at the Marine Discovery Center. So the coast, this will put us on the map, this will put us on the trails map, and it's a really, really big deal. This is a really big deal long-term for us in where we go in ecotourism and the grants that are available. So because of the Sun Trail money, we were able to put dollars back into ECHO that were earmarked for this project. So we have pulled the great switcheroo from ECHO. We saved the ECHO dollars and allocated Sun Trail dollars, but we've been working on this for a year and a half, 2 years. So this is a really big deal for the city of Edgewater, city of New Smyrna Beach, our trail system, the river to CTPO. And with the Sun Trail, this frees up all sorts of other monies. You know, when we look at the budget, where's the pot of dollars? How are we going to do this? So this is good leverage. This is a real good return on investment. And the reason Volusia is so successful, and we got the Sun Trail, is because of our match, but what really won it for us at the state was because of our trail app. We were the only ones, we won by 1 point. Tallahassee almost had us, the hearing. We won by 1 point in that hearing, and what put us over was our Trails app. So this is a really, really big deal, and I look forward to representing you there and keeping this going and keeping us in the forefront. The only other thing, Jeff, are you around? Are you ready? Jeff Crumbly? I want to thank staff. We did a ribbon cutting on the fishing pier that you've heard about. This is the best vista in all of Volusia County. I kid you not. If you get a chance, go down there in the evening time. The vistas, the sunset off this pier is breathtaking. We threw out the first line. There was a young man, 13 years old, from Port Orange that caught the first fish. He was thrilled. When I got there with staff, this is a pavilion here at Smyrna Dunes Park. What time did it start, Jessica? Jessica, will you come up just a minute? At 10 o'clock? I got there about 9:15. There were people already out at the pier. It was blocked off, the fishing pier, waiting to get there. We had to walk through a crowd to get out to the fishing pier when it came time to cut the ribbon. But I want to thank Joe Nolan. You've got Jessica Winter up there. You've got Suzanne McCabe from Find there that brought a check for Volusia County, a grant check, which is very difficult to qualify for. And of course, Ray Manchester and Mr. Who is it, Mr. Deneen? Yeah, our manager. But it was really, really. The guy in the tie. The guy, yeah, the guy in the tie. We made him take his tie off to come out. See, his tie is missing, so you can't come to the ribbon cutting till you take off the tie. But yeah, just flip through those. Mayor Hathaway, the city of New Smyrna Beach, and all the electeds, the manager and assistant manager was there. We did a great ribbon cutting. It was just, the concrete, the pilings there are concrete. That's amazing. It's a 350-foot fishing pier, 10 feet wide. 10 feet wide. It's beautiful, Fred. I'm telling you. You see this, and see those two covered shades, council? This is before the new council, but this was on Jessica's, the day we officially appointed you. You were in the audience. Do you remember this discussion? And so we fought for, and thank you for changing that. We got those two covered shades areas out there, but there's plenty of benches. I'm telling you, I get more compliments, whether I'm at the grocery store or anywhere, and the emails and on social media. People are thrilled with what the county has done with this. So it's a great, great asset. It's going to be used. It's going to be overly used. There's no floating docks. So you cannot tie up to it, nor do we want you to tie up to it. It's open till 9 p.m., but it's used all the time. Look at this. This was the morning we cut the ribbon. People just came from everywhere to take a look at this. It was much anticipated.
Well, the water depth there, which is surprising to people, because you don't usually see this on dock, 18 feet deep.
18 feet.
So you can really catch some good-sized fish.
Red snapper, probably.
Yeah, and it parallels the intercoastal, and there were concerns. I got some constituent concerns that because that's the dog beach, that possibly the fishing hooks would be a peril to the dogs in the water. There's enough distance. That's a non-issue. Yeah.
I would go there all the time.
Yeah, and we saw people with dogs on the beach there and in and out, and the kids. This is a young man that caught the first fish from Port Orange. He was there with his friend and his dad. It was just a really magnificent event. It's one of the best that I have been to, and the community support is just, of course, this is a huge project. And now what's going to happen is the Smyrna Dunes boardwalk is going to start coming down in sections. We're going to replace it today. We're starting today. And so we told everybody there it's going to look worse before it gets better. But to about June 2018 is that our goal, to have it completely replaced. And we're going to take it from 6 to 8 feet, right, the actual boardwalk. And it will be the same Tyvek, correct? So no more splinters. That's a big deal. But I want to thank staff, and I want Brian Vendel. Is Brian here? Brian did our video production coordinator, and this was his idea. We all threw out I just thought that was interesting, very, very interesting. And Jeff, thank you, but staff, seriously, Mr. Manager, the city and all of our collaborative partners, and Jessica, what you did with your staff, thank you so much. If you get a chance, council, go out there because it will take your breath away, especially in the evening, and looking at the sun. You can see the lighthouse. It's beautiful, beautiful. So congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Dr. Lowry.
Thank you. I just have one thing. The Enterprise Heritage Museum just recently had a traveling educational display from the Smithsonian entitled The Way We Work. I don't know if any of y'all got a chance to go by there, but it was really, really nice. And you can sit there with your phone and call a number, and they give you the information and talk about it. It was really interesting to find out a lot of things about the way we used to work in America and do today and how things have changed. The museum would like to bring another traveling exhibit next year called Hometown Sports, or Hometown Teams, which is dealing with sports and so forth. And in order to appeal to the Smithsonian to bring that exhibit, they would like to know if we could give them a letter of support from the council. There's no money involved or anything. It'll just be a letter of support saying that we would support this kind of endeavor and so forth. And so I'd just like to ask my colleagues if they would give the chair a head nod that we could give such a letter of support. Would that be okay with everybody? Okay, all right. Well, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Patterson.
Yeah.
Okay, I only have one thing, since it's related to something we passed today, which is the solar. I was approached by Pat Northey in the League of Women Voters, and they're wanting to see if the county would be interested in co-sponsoring or being involved in a co-op on solar energy for homeowners. So I think we need to look into it very carefully, but I just did want to bring that up and see if the council's interested.
They've approached me too, and I'd be on board with you on that, sir.
Okay. Well, I do want to be just real careful, they want to launch it from here, like downstairs when we come up with something here, so.
Are you looking for a funding source?
Not really. I think what they're looking for is our involvement in it, that we would be very supportive of it. There'll be contractors that'll be wanting to provide the service. The League of Women Voters is going to be involved in that, saying who is reputable and, that people should deal with. So.
The League of Women Voters is going to determine who the contractors are?
No, they've got some group that's going to be involved with it. That's why I said we need to just look
Ms.
into
Patterson.
it.
More information.
Here's what I would suggest is we'll look into it. Ginger and our staff can look into it specifically. We'll try to figure out, we'll talk to Pat, we'll try to figure out what they want, and then we'll come back to you with some recommendations.
That's all I really wanted, is just to have us look at this, carefully.
Well, we've done so many things. We've done solar things. We're doing a thing at the airport. We're helping these people. I mean, it's all in the same vein as our green program.
This is a homeowners type program.
That's it. Thank you very much. We will adjourn at 12:57. No, I'm sorry. I always try to. Oh shoot! I was eliminating him. We got 3 minutes. You got one, Jim.
Well, it's actually something you brought up. So, and the council agreed, and I just wanted to give you an update. We had a pretty successful Memorial Day. I was happy on no tragedies. Everything went well. I think we had the record number of vehicles we've ever allowed on the beach in terms of gone through our turnstiles. One thing we are looking at closely is, I told you I'd bring you back something on the whole ramps and how we process people. There are two things that we've been monitoring, and this, understand that the previous council have done a lot of things to change how we run the beach. So it ain't like this is a never-ending evolution based on all the issues that the council, which is what I do believe should be happen. You decide based on what your citizens tell you, and then we start looking at new ways of doing things. But two things I had recommended to the previous council, but we did what we only, sometimes you don't want to go a bridge too far. We did a number of things, we raised the fee, and we changed how we do a lot of things on the beach. But two things we might want to think about, and I just want to follow up based on the statistics we got, because this is a good one, an indicator. One thing we might want to think about, we've had this problem in the past, the newspaper talked to us about it. No matter, you know, there's this whole issue about if we get these, it's really the large crowds, and I hate to say this, it tends to be directly related to the people that visit, that are usually short-term visitors. They tend not to be the annual pass holders. These are day trippers. And we've had issues with some people who don't take their stuff with them, their garbage with them. And there's really no way, and you don't want us to start a Gestapo of trying to, unless somebody's littering, a lot of times we don't know what they're going to do until they leave. And then we clean it up. But it becomes a lot, we use an enormous amount of resources to increase the number of cans and do all kinds of things. But we have the increased cost for that, and we have increased costs for the restrooms, and a lot of things that are directly related to this surge. And it happens during high season. And as I had mentioned to the previous council, we may want to look at, now I'm not suggesting you do this right now, but you may want to look at, do we connect some kind of congestion pricing for those passes, not the annual passes, for the weekends that are high season. This is not unusual. Everybody does this, especially for the weekends and the holidays, where some additional fee might be charged on the day passes that would go directly towards the increased need on the beach. So it wouldn't be used for other things, but you could have extra people for restrooms and cleaning up and even more, so we could police even better. It really becomes a problem. 4th of July, the beaches become a mess because people shoot all the fireworks off and everything. So bottom line is, you might want to think about that, Ms. Chair. You talked about other things for the future. And the other thing was, and this is the more startling thing, one way I think we can significantly change any, now we had a lot of delays because I can give you the whole list of where the beach is totally full. And then we had to wait 15, 20 minutes till cars came off so they could let cars on. There's a lot of episodes where that happens. But one of the things is when it is open, getting people through, I had them check this statistic. We need to think about, and the council previously was a little bit hesitant, but we need to think about having a rule in the future that people understand. Maybe we just do not allow the sale of resident or non-resident passes on the weekend. You know, our residents should not have an issue during the week. I'm not suggesting you do it right now, but here's a statistic that'll blow you away, that's hard to comprehend, and is what causes some delays. During the 4 days of one of the highest seasons we have on Memorial Day, we sold at the toll booths of resident annual passes 1,133. Do you know how much time that cost for them people to come up and to get a resident pass and have to show that material when they could have went any other time and we're selling them at the height of the busiest day we have?
5,000 or 6,000 minutes.
I mean, it's think about it. I mean, you're looking for easy ways to, without impacting people, and these are just the resident passes, and we even had non-resident passes that also could add to this. I'm suggesting that be maybe, when I said we would come forward, I'm going to take this information, and as we come forward with some ideas, I want you to kind of revisit some of these ideas that maybe we just tell people, look, and we may look at other places to sell the passes. We got a few places we could do them, maybe at our DMV and stuff like that, so it's easier to do. But you know, not selling the pass during the weekends, at least would, I think, make sense. I think would speed things up a lot faster. We also looked at the idea of which ramps, because we have some ramps. It's shocking how some ramps are not used at all, hardly at all, even though we man them. And maybe that might be, Mr. Chair, when we talked about having ramps that are just for pass holders, we may want to look at some of the ones that are maybe least used, because, and just say, look, you know, if you want to get through fast, you can just go through. We're going to look at all that. I just wanted you to know the statistics we got are mind-boggling of how much passes. The other thing we looked at is if we did this congestion pricing, I think all that money could be delivered right to the beach for extra services, and it's really by the people that in some cases are the ones causing the extra trash, the extra. I'm telling you, it's not coming from most of the annual pass holders. We're starting to see that very directly. Just thought I'd give you an update. Is that it?
No, if I could
But
piggyback on that.
Let me piggyback on it, because that's exactly what you're doing, is why I wanted a workshop, because I've got a dozen other questions that I would like for us all to be able to sit and discuss. And that was one of them that I had brought about like a month ago. And if we could all sit in a situation and discuss the beach, for example, one of the ones on the chairs that we talked about, where the chairs that's coming before us in the future, I mentioned today, why can't the people that are setting up their chairs and umbrellas, why can't they set those up in the non-parking areas so that they wouldn't interfere with anybody? Because we have a rule on the beach that a person has to move their chair from a parking spot back to the softer sand. Why isn't it the same for the beach vendors? But I mean, I've got at least 8 other questions on the beach issues, and that would be one of them. And I'd like to get us to dedicate some time to discuss it like we're kind of doing now. It doesn't have to be it would be better in a workshop sitting, but if we could do that here, have it as an item, let us each bring thoughts. I only gave my thoughts to create dialogue and discussion, because others may have a whole lot better ideas than I would, or that any of us will come out of that.
Why I was giving you these comments was that we are planning on scheduling. I'm going to let you all know.
Okay.
We'll plan on scheduling. I thought we could maybe make it the afternoon part of one of these meetings. And then we would have this discussion. I'm getting information. The other thing on the beach vendors, by the way, while I have your attention, you will get the final draft of the final specs of the addendum that we're going to send out to the beach vendors. Remember that we asked them for their input. We talked to all of you. I'm going to give you one more shot at taking a look at now what we're actually going to send out. If you have any issues, we'll give you about a week to get back to us. Have any issues, let us know. Then we're going to, because that's the group where we narrow them down, they're going to come in front of you. So this will be your shot at looking one more time at what we're going to ask these people to provide. But Mr. Chair, that's why I wanted to give that information. I'm getting prepared, and I was going to work with all you on when you want to do that, and we would have this discussion. And we were going to focus first on ramps, make sure we deal with ramps, and then any other related issues to the ramps.
Okay. Jamie, anyone else down there? Dan, everybody good?
Just one comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. But I agree with you, Mr. Chair. It's time to have this conversation. Now, some emails, what happened this weekend, because it was a record weekend. When you come down 44, there are signs that say, seek off-beach parking, and they list Hiles Avenue, whatever. So now everybody in Bethune Beach, and the emails are coming in, so they're going to Hiles, but what they're doing is they're backing up all the side streets. They can't get on the beach. So what has happened since the city of New Smyrna Beach is charging to pay for their lots, which is fair. This is not a negative, it's just a fact. But we're not on our off-beach parking. Maybe to counteract that, we need a fair playing field and charge for our off-beach parking and control some of this, because it was out of control this weekend in New Smyrna Beach. It really was. The citizens that were out there, but they could not get out of their areas. So we need to take a serious look at this, because we may be creating the very thing that we say we don't want. Go down to Hiles, get to off-beach free parking. Okay, so they go down there, and now we've got this explosion of cars down there, just closing in neighborhoods. So I think it's at the point we have a responsibility to make some tough decisions. I, for one, agree with the manager. I would, when you go to North Carolina or you go somewhere, you go in high season, right? You're going to pay more in the fall, or when the leaves are, they're changing, you pay more. We have high season here too, and we have congestion prices. And my latest thing is I think we have deeply undervalued our beach asset. So to protect it and to make sure we have access, we need to raise the value of those that are coming and stay in our beaches, because they're coming in for day pass with all this stuff, cleaning up. The tent stakes are there. It's a mess. It's bad.
I agree, and I think the previous council looked at a lot of things, made a lot of changes, but they weren't willing to make all the changes. Now it's time to look, because if you remember, it was a big deal when we changed the fee from $5 to $10. And so now we learned from that it never affected the number of people coming, and so we've crossed that nexus maybe.
Okay, everyone done? If you do have questions that you would like to have answered or addressed on the beach issues or any of those issues, I would suggest direct them to staff so they can start compiling those so that we don't have a lot of questions. I'll do the same thing, and with that, 9 minutes later than 12:59, we'll gavel out at 1:08, meeting adjourned. Bam, I got to use that thing.